Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me, as he always does, it's Duncan Torrent Shield. Still enjoying the California Chronic, the good times out there. How's your show been going? I haven't had a lot of time to watch it. How's the thing been going for League of
And
Legends?
it's generally been going pretty well. The good thing is, because it is just on the internet, even though it's produced, it's like we don't actually have like hard cut-off times. So, for example, if we're talking about a topic, it kind of is a bit like the old concept of a podcast like this one where we can talk about anything we want. You know, like the guy in my ear might say, go to the next segment whenever you want. But like I could drag that out to 5 minutes. So it's actually been pretty good all in all. Like I think it still retains the vibe of what you would talk about on a podcast, just with the benefit of having all the stuff you can do when you're there, like do a cold open and a little skit and stuff. So it's some of the stuff's cool. It's actually one of those things that I always thought was unfortunate about what happened with E-League. Because for people who don't know, especially since me and Richard were like involved with even the concept of E-League before it even launched, etc. Since it was actually one of my agents was one of the people who started E-League, when they were initially talking to us about the project, they kind of oversold basically like how big it would be and how much involvement everyone would have and all that stuff. So unfortunately, I remember thinking when E-League launched, because it was going to be like television about Counter-Strike, I remember thinking like we'll be able to do all this six-side shoulder content, you know, and there'll be all these features. And sadly, obviously, we didn't really get to do much of that. It was just the odd thing. So I would hope in the future there'll be some cool opportunities to do some properly produced stuff. Because I have to say, that's the other thing. It's like, I'm fine with lo-fi, but after watching back some of the shows, like, it does make a difference when you have, like, proper fucking production.
Oh, I mean, just having a studio with, like, multiple cameras, people in the room, it does make a huge difference to, like, the final content that you get. And, yeah, you know, I mean, there was talk about doing, like, by the numbers on, like, you know, our show with me and you, like back on like the proprietary player that they built, you know, and doing a podcast and doing all this stuff, like, you know, fucking around the horn or fucking point counterpoint and all this stuff. I've had so many companies, by the way, come and say, like, we'd really like you and Duncan to do a show. Like, even DeSoto did it recently with that other one we were meant to be doing, which was just meant to be about, you know, not about esports. And, you know, it never... I don't know what it is. It's like, it can't be that hard, surely, but it just never seems to get off the ground.
The best part about that, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know the premise, just because it'll amuse people a little bit, like the premise of this show was great. It's like, right, you've got these preeminent esports journalists, but one thing they never talk about is non-esports stuff. So why not have a podcast where they talk and use their, you know, pacing, insightful minds to discuss pop culture, movies. But the irony of it was this, Richard. So we called the show Harmless Banter. But one of the reasons why this show does not and will probably never exist is it quickly emerged. It was actually the most dangerous minefield you could ever enter for your career, to just do a whole show about nothing to do with esports. Like, it basically, because the logic is this: if you talk about esports in the context of like our jobs, even something edgy goes in the service of, like, you know, pursuing your career, furthering your reach, etc. Just doing a show like that is just like begging to be cancelled, basically. Like, right, so what do you think about this new, really political, edgy movie? Go. Like,
I know, right? Yeah, would have been a nightmare.
In theory, it was great. In practice, maybe not as much.
I mean, I still think we should just fucking do it ourselves.
It would be cool if you could do it properly.
Get Do Not Peak involved. We'll spend a couple of weeks in Phoenix. We'll film a fucking entire season of it. And we'll just release it that way. I'm sure Scott will be down. We'll figure it out. But anyway, look, the shout out
Sam
to...
can just start his production company, Do More Beak. Because if anything goes wrong, they just go to the...
I tell you, if me and Sam formed a company, it'd be called fucking Rent Free. Like, it would literally be called Rent Free. Rent Free Productions, mate. Because that works on so many fucking...
By the way, why is that another one of the things that the internet's ruined? Because, you know, the worst thing about the internet is people who don't actually know, like, the premise of a joke, trying to get in on it, basically, and just be like, hey, am I too late, guys, for the meme? Oof. One of those, like, you know, like, but they do it in some context that doesn't make any sense. Well, similarly, like, I wish people who don't understand the premise would stop doing stuff like they're a random nobody who messages me 500 times and then tells me that they're in my head.
I know.
It's like, no,
I had it the other day.
That's not how that works at all.
I had it with Overwatch. People in the Overwatch community were going, the entire Overwatch scene is living around. Does that even work? I don't even know who any of you are. Like, I don't care.
How are they? How are they just living in
Meanwhile, of course, I'm fucking definitely not living in their rent free. Like, definitely not. Like, definitely not thousands of tweets about me. Definitely, if they'd literally had their meltdown on any other day, I would have trended on Twitter. Like, I worked it out by the metrics. It was like, unfortunately, it came with like the Riot Games announcement and the Democratic debates. So I was never going to beat that because that's like tens of thousands of tweets. But like, take for example, like yesterday, there was stuff trending with like 4,000 tweets. That's me. I would have easily trended. So that's how fucking rent free I'm rolling up in all your dumbs. But whatever, fuck them. Look, I'll get this out of the way. I'll give a shout out to the sponsor, .com. While we're talking about rent free and ridiculousness, because this is pushing, you know, the slow news week to fucking breaking point. I thought last episode was bad. This is going to be rough. There's literally fuck all going on. But I have to say, congrats, guys. You did it. It's not very often I realize how incorrect I have been when applying hyperbolic statements in the past. This that occurred a few days ago is hands down the stupidest thing I've ever seen on Reddit. All the other times I said it, I was wrong. All the other times I said it, I was actually wrong. It probably wasn't even the stupidest at that point. I'll admit that. This, on the other hand, absolutely proves that there is something wrong with y'all. And I'm including all of you in this, guys, including all of you. Usually I even give my audience a pass. Not today. You don't get a pass today. You know why you don't get a pass today? Because Reddit has a system, right? Upvotes, downvotes, right? And it's incredibly weighted towards agreement. Because obviously if you get -5 net, so it only takes an additional, like, you know, 5 people more than like your stuff to dislike your stuff to make it disappear. That's how weighted towards agreement it is, because we live in a world where apparently we all must agree. And Reddit reinforces this, and it's been proven. There's been studies, by the way. You can go look this up if you're interested in it. Basically, whatever the first comment in a Reddit thread is, that will dictate the tone of the conversation. Everybody will fall in line and agree with that point. So it's on you guys too, you see, because we all have a responsibility. When morons are being morons, the non-morons have got to fucking rise up and stop the morons being morons. But you never do that, do you? Do you know why? Because it is exhausting, isn't it? I know that. It's exhausting standing up to morons. The moron, they're an incredible beast in many ways. You see, first of all, morons can never lose an argument because they're too dumb to know that they've lost. So they just keep going like the fucking Terminator of stupid hot takes. They just cannot be stopped at all. Second, they are just relentless when it comes to their energy because they live in a world where it's like every whim, every idea that comes into their head, every point they make, it's just straight out there. It's just, you know, and everyone and all the other morons come out, yeah, I agree, yeah. So I saw this fucking Reddit thread. It is hands down the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It is hands down.
For this is mental. Come on, let's see what it
right.
is.
It is Duncan. You must have seen it. You must have. You must already have some opinions on this.
All right, let's see.
So, a Reddit user called Fathlete TV. By the way, also, if you're not a streamer or a broadcaster and you have no audience and you've got TV in your name, you're a cunt. You are a cunt. You're an irredeemable cunt.
It's like
so
having
we've got
crypto
moron
in your name
and
about
cunt.
2 years
Who's
ago,
watching this guy? Why have you got TV in your name?
Mate, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't believe how many times me and Vince at 2 a.m. European time will be playing like a Face It game. And there'll be someone in the game, random mix at like level 2 or whatever, that has like their Twitch name as their Face It name. And if you go to the Twitch, they are streaming live to about like one person. You know,
to one person.
Like, why are you even wasting anyone's time with it? You're just shagging your PC. That's all, mate.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, mate. Like, everyone's got to start somewhere. But the point is, right, streaming, you know, building a brand, it's not just as easy as I'll just turn it on and play a game and everyone will watch. It can't be like that, right? I'll stick TV in my name and everyone will know that I am on TV now. Like, it's fucking mental. No. We live in an age where by de facto everybody can broadcast their lives, right? What do you do to stand out? Putting TV in your name? Cunt, immediately. It doesn't work for me. Sorry, just saying. Anyway, this guy, Fathlete TV made a thread called Team Liquid Era, Team Liquid Era, the easiest since NIPs. Sponge says I'm wrong, then he steals my opinion? Question mark? Oh, did you not see this?
No, I'm looking it up now.
Duncan, have I got a treat for you, brother? It's there in the group chat. Open up this thread. Now, first of all, Duncan, you're an educated and enlightened man, somebody I respect, somebody I've worked with for many years. May I ask your opinion on the idea of stealing opinions?
I mean, for me, that's the reason why that whole topic of comedians stealing jokes is a big deal. Because the problem is the concept of like a basic opinion, you can't really steal. Like someone else could easily have it, parallel thinking, etc. Or actually, guess what? The idea might not be that crazy an idea; might be quite easy to come up with. So I would say, just like the joke example, you got to look for telltale signs that they definitely stole your opinion. Otherwise, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, haven't you? And just assume they had a similar idea. It's not that wacky they would. I mean, it's fucking Counter-Strike, isn't it? I mean, this guy's ideas about an era in Counter-Strike, it's a pretty broad topic. I'm sure everyone's discussed at this point.
Right. So, well, let me just compare the idea of stealing an opinion, right? When you're an analyst and it's your job to have opinions. The idea of stealing an opinion, for me, it's about on a level with the indigenous tribes that when they first encountered explorers that had photographic capability, they believed that they were when they saw the images in front of them, they believed they'd stole their soul and put it into the fucking box. It is one of the most moronic things I've ever seen. But this is where it gets insane, right? So he goes, a while back, I made a topic saying Team Liquid's era was the easiest since NIPs due to a ton of teams slumping, rebuilding, not attending events. And Sponge said, I couldn't be more wrong. And he includes an image of official Sponge, Jesus H. Christ, you couldn't be more wrong. But now on stream, he brings up the same exact topic, naming it whatever he wants to name it. And he blocked me on Twitter for saying exactly what he said now. And then he links to Twitch. And in it, Sponge says, actually, I think Team Liquid's era could have been the easiest since NIP, or words to that effect. Anyway, so this gets upvoted and it goes to the front of Reddit. And some of the fucking opinions alongside this. So first of all, right, you can not hold an opinion. 2 months can pass and you can change your mind and come around to that opinion. Prime example, I think me and Duncan, when NRG picked up Cirque, right, what did we say? Probably is a bad pickup, bit of a gamble, hasn't really done anything to justify any hype around him. Not gonna do anything. Now, if 2 months later I stood by that opinion that he was a bad pickup, I would be the moron, right? But no, what's happened is more information has developed, new things have occurred. So my opinion evolves based on the information that I have to me. And of course, Sponge is somebody that probably goes through a similar mental process. You can think something is wrong, 2 months can pass, and then you can think something is right. The idea that, by the way, you get to patent an opinion or trademark an opinion, and only you can be credited as the sole source of the wisdom contained within that opinion is demented. And the idea as well that opinions have to be immutable and cannot change over time, especially if you're in a business where you have to produce opinions, broadcast after broadcast after broadcast, podcast after podcast after podcast, it seems insane. So, this is just unreal, right? 500 upvotes. That guy, Rhea Feeder Too Strong. What is it, by the way, with morons and the mouse sports flair? There's something about it. There's something about people with mental problems and low IQ gravitating towards the mouse sports flair. I don't know why. I don't know why it happens, but it is an observable, provable phenomenon. I think we should just change that to some sort of like radioactive symbol. But Rhea Feeder Too Strong, another genius. He's in every thread all day, every day, chipping in with his comments. Reading the title made me think, lol, There's no way a proven analyst steals an opinion off Reddit. So immediately the premise, like the top of voted comment should be, really, mate, you can't really steal.
By the way, since you brought it up, that is one thing that I only now just taken stock of how mad it is. Like, remember back in the day when Reddit first came along for CSGO, you went on it occasionally. You maybe knew a couple of names of people who post a lot of comments because it's now been around for so long. It's like we've replaced the concept of like the old school, like man of letters with just cunts who just puts too much on fucking Reddit. Like, why have I been reading 10 years of some of these guys' shit opinions about Counter-Strike? Like, the worst thing is there's one for every fandom. Like, there's the cunts who support Astralis. There's a couple of those. There's the fucking Radiant Sun guy. They all just pop up. And it's like, oh, he's back again. What's this shit cunt got to tell me today? More of his opinions. Sound.
Yeah. And it actually means a lot to them. That's the crazy thing. It's like, this is their platform. It's so fucking weird.
Oh, they think this is like Ready Player One or something, and they're in the game by having like opinions and stuff or something.
No, but these are the people who like, they spend 2 years doing this, and then they go and they start writing articles on a Medium and tweeting them out to like 50 people, and it's always like a 250-word article with like no research saying why I think Cloud9 were hasty to drop tens, and they try and go like against the public prescribed opinion to make it look like they know what they're talking about, and it's just really tepid bullshit with no insight. These people have no connections. It's like, fuck, they all
and
follow
they just
the same
get instantly banned by Reddit and downvoted by like 50 people, and they're like, oh, what the fuck? When Sponge said this opinion, he was upvoted.
But anyway, reading the title made me think, lol, there's no way a proven analyst steals an opinion off Reddit. And then in the Twitch clip, I was surprised. The fact that he then blocks you on Twitter instead of being willing to discuss it is also weird. This is another thing as well, right? I thought it was just the Overwatch. The mental illness, all right? This idea that you're entitled to view anyone's Twitter you want and interact with anyone you want on social media. This needs to be addressed, right? There needs to be a PSA which says, right, like when you log into Twitter, a big message, a big warning should come up going, when you interact with when you tweet at a celebrity, you are not really interacting with the celebrity. Many celebrity accounts are run by interns. Many people, you are not guaranteed a response, and you can be blocked at any time. You are not as important as these people.
It's hard to keep it in mind.
No, obviously, yeah, it's very, very difficult, isn't it? As I said, when you see the reply guys on like Donald Trump things, and they're like, these people do acquire like hundreds of thousands of followers off literally being the first person to reply to the president. And just imagine what kind of like bottom feeder, troglodyte you are if that is your entire life. But it is for some people. And for these, it's like, why did Sponge block me on Twitter? He doesn't have to listen to your shit. You're nobody. What is wrong with you? Don't you understand that you do not have the right to view someone's Twitter feed? You entitled fucking moron. You don't have the right. He can block anyone he wants for any reason. I can block anyone I want for any reason. That's what the function is there for. And the only reason that I prefer blocking, right, over muting, is because it drives you all fucking mad. It drives you all so mad because I'm in your fucking head rent-free and Sponge is in your heads rent-free, right? It drives you so fucking crazy you will not stop talking about it. But there's dozens of comments, Duncan, right? So first of all, we accept the premise that you can steal an opinion, and then it's just, and he blocks people on Twitter, and he blocks people on Twitter, and he blocks people on Twitter. Yeah, okay.
The part people never got, like, I don't know why this doesn't get over, so I'll just, like, restate it again in common words, and hopefully people will understand. This is the part that never made sense to me, is when people spin it, that the dynamic goes like this. The person who blocked you, they're the one who's a snowflake and thin-skinned, and really. But the person who's complaining that they were blocked by someone they claim not to like or not to like the behavior of, but still want to see the odd thing of, there's nothing weird or insecure about that and complaining about that, even though what that actual relationship tells you is this set of priorities. To the person blocking you, you are not a priority at all. They need never see any thought you ever issue again. The person complaining about being blocked presumably still wants to read some of the comments. Therefore, they are actually the one in the weak position. Like, they aren't the one who's the nonchalant, cool one who's dismissing the other one. They have doing explicitly the opposite of that. Like, I know you can get different exceptions, but like, that is one trend I never really understood, is like, why, like, the weirdest part is this. if you really are someone who wants to read some of someone's tweets, but not all of them, but also not get blocked, there's two obvious approaches. One, just don't complain about the tweets you don't like to see, and you'll still get to see the other ones. Or two, just actually openly say that and apologize. Just say, like, I'm sorry, like I came on too strong, but I would like to read some of your tweets, so please unblock me. Instead, they always go, just got on the schoolyard, bit of the old reverse psychology. Yeah,
I know.
You should keep me blocked, you fat cunt. I don't even care about what you say anyway. It's like, sound I will. You fucking, this is freedom,
Mate.
human rights. Like this.
No, I know. Right? So anyway, while this is blowing up and going to the front page, right, Sponge actually messaged the guy and said, howdy, I sent you a DM. For those curious about the contents of the DM, I mean, I tweeted at Sponge saying, why are you pandering to these fucks? Like, just, you know what I mean? First of all, there's literally nothing to apologize for. Like, you're apologizing for somebody claiming that you stole their opinion. They're morons, that you should do all you can to just not interact with them. Just accept that they're morons, tell them they're morons, and hope and pray.
It's being
that
way
don't
too
breed.
reasonable here. Like, if some random homeless guy just goes to the fucking Disney building and starts just screaming, like, I came up with to the Star Wars in 1953, like, they don't just send a guy down, like, let's just resolve this problem.
I know.
We'll talk it through. It's like they just eject that guy immediately, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. You just release the hounds, right? Like, that's what you go. But anyway, so Sponge said, sorry if I was abrasive in recent history, mate. I'd make excuse for my behavior, but that's my personal stuff and not something that's relevant here. I didn't get a lot of time to dive completely into what I wanted to discuss fully. I think that the era for Liquid was difficult considering the consistency that they had to show. There were also good teams who underperformed and outlier teams who overperformed. It's definitely difficult to define periods of the game when the formats, amount of events, and other factors are always changing. A lot of this is subjective, and I think more importantly here, I shouldn't be so close-minded to other people's views with this in mind. I didn't have a chance to go deeper into what I'm thinking as I'm working right now, but maybe we can revisit this discussion at a later date if you were interested. And he said to the Reddit guys, anyway, I'm aware I can be an abrasive cunt. That's something I need to curb. No excuses. And then people start replying to that, right? Because again, at this point, I'm just expecting it to go away. Because what the mob wants is the mob wants you to acknowledge them and tell them that they have a point. That's what the mob wants. The mob always wants you to say, listen, angry crowd of morons with barely 2 brain cells to rub together between 500 of you. Yes, you're right. I'm wrong. I'm going to change for you because you're important. Reality, you don't matter, right?
There's also, for sure, a lot of people in these threads that secretly want it to be true because they want to believe that every time, like, Yanko ever made a sick point, he just stole their point secretly from a thread that they posted in, about, like, mouse sports as well, presumably.
So then people go, he could go into politics with an answer like that. That's I'm a German Shepherd, almost 200 upvotes. Yeah, that was some next level, not answering the accusation or actually saying sorry for what he did. 100 upvotes, right? Right? That guy, Jinnings, then follows up and go, right, somebody said, like, well, what's he actually supposed to have done? And he goes, he mocked someone else for their opinion, and then later was hypocritical in stating that his opinion was now the same. He says, sorry, if I was abrasive, instead of sorry for being a hypocrite. Not gonna lie, looking back, I was a bit of a dick. Now that's a proper apology. He also waffles about the Liquid era to avoid actually putting his pride aside and admitting he was wrong. So now we're not only accepting that you can steal opinions, we're accepting the prescribed opinion as being absolutely objectively correct.
Yeah, the science is in on that one, I believe.
Yeah, we've just had the science. We've just had the science. Yes, Team Liquid's era was the easiest since NIP. I mean, complete fucking nonsense.
I know.
Same moron, by the way. Same moron. And I guarantee if I went through his history, he was probably arguing that the Team Liquid era wasn't an era at all. But yeah, fine. And then so on it goes. I'll read you some of the belters because somebody said, what a shitty and evasive response. Nobody cares that you are abrasive, Sponge. What matters is your intellectual dishonesty when you say, I think, and in reality, that opinion isn't even yours. Shit apology. That's
Why
from
does
Smile
everyone
is the
come
way.
with
40
the kind
upvotes.
Why did they come with the kind of vitriol and like internal fire burning that you would have if you were like some sort of anti-war protester getting to finally call out Tony Blair or something? Like the level of like emotion in these comments is just way overboard. Like y'all have gone too far. It's not that big a deal, is it?
So then somebody replied and going, I've had the same opinion about Liquid. So did Op steal my opinion? And then the same guy, Smile is the way, replies with, you can have the same opinions as other people, not if you Sponge. But if you mock them for it and then proudly present it as your own, that's lame as fuck. We've had the science in on that one too, Duncan. If you ever agree with anyone after 2 months has elapsed, it's now officially lame as fuck. It's lame as fuck, guys. That's the official classification.
So ridiculous.
I know, right? And then there's this other guy, Trolley Bus is real, hardcore mental illness.
I saw there's like some like the pregnancy test where you look at the 2 blue lines. It's like there's a thing.
Lame, sorry.
Lame AF. Lame AF. Yeah, that's right.
Right. Then there's this guy called Trolley Bus is real. He's like, he's hard to believe he's a real human being, but he is. It goes, you are missing the point. Sponge is full of shit, and he knows it. He just makes things up, and he got caught here. Would be hilarious if someone actually did a study about all those claims analysts make. Pretty sure a monkey throwing darts at an HLTV ranking would probably be just as good as all those analyst predictions. And the point is that he attacks people that say something he disagrees with, even when he is objectively wrong. Then he posts a dumb apology, and it isn't even honest. By the way, one reply to that, this actually perfectly nails it.
In case anyone isn't keeping track, objectively wrong. Have you noticed how a common trend with these people is that they actually believe there's some sort of like God and or supercomputer calculating who's actually wrong and right on like very minor subjective opinion matters.
It's ridiculous.
You have been proven wrong, sir. Apologise.
Yeah, to be fair, I do want to give a shout out to a guy called Deddy Link who actually just did a post going, stealing opinions. I swear to fuck, this sub's reaching for new depths of stupidity never seen before. But he was a lone voice in a wilderness of absolute gibbering.
Like Bill Hicks or something.
Yeah, exactly. It was just unreal. Let me find. There was some of the highlights I pointed out. Oh yeah, this is where it gets really good. So then the conversation segues. So Sponge steals opinions that are objectively wrong. Then it was Sponge blocks people on Twitter, and this is objectively wrong, and you're not allowed to do it. Then one Redditor, right, who wanted to be king of the morons, because if you've ever heard the phrase in the Valley of the Blind, the one-eyed man is king, nothing applies better to Reddit. Like, all you have to do, it was like that fucking moron, like, remember Unidan, who fucking, like, just because he had a very cursory understanding of science, people would, like, summon him into threads, and he would go, oh, yes, well, actually, Cravex is, you're like, yeah, you can just Google this shit, you don't need to summon Unidan. You just Google it yourself, you fucking morons. But no, nobody can do that, right? So in the Valley of the Blind, the one-eyed man is king. That is pretty much how Reddit operates. So Moon Presence, he's learnt the word prima donna. He doesn't know what it means, but he's heard the word.
The terminology.
No, but he doesn't know what it means. He doesn't know what it means, but he's heard it. And he thinks if he uses it, right, he can become king of the morons, right? Like, so in he comes. Sponge is a prima donna. That's it. Just opening statement. Right. Bold. Now, again, let me read to you the definition of a prima donna. First of all, it's an operatic term. It comes from opera. So the prima donna is the chief female singer in an opera company. And the reason the word simmered down is that a lot of these women, because they were, opera's hugely demanding way to sing. So and they're the star of the show. You know, there's a lot of operatic phrases that are passed into common parlance, like it's not over until the fat lady sings, because they would typically do the final act. So you have to, it's all about them basically. So this got transferred into common parlance to mean a very temperamental person with an inflated view of their own talent or importance. Here we are talking about somebody just giving an opinion and being accused of stealing it. So I don't understand why this is now becoming a debate. None of you people who work on a broadcast with Sponge, none of you people even get to see what goes on backstage with Sponge. You don't know anything about Sponge. Whereas like people like me who've known him like since 2006, we get to have some insight into who he is and whether or not he's a prima donna or not. And he certainly isn't that, by the way. But anyway, Sponge is a prima donna. The dude is so full of himself and in his own world. In fact, I get this vibe from a lot of casters and analysts these days that they think they're superstar celebrities or something.
Fucking John Edwards from Crossing Over. Who's this medium cycle? I'm getting
No,
a vibe. I'm getting the name John. Is there a John in the audience?
Yeah. No. It's not a John. A Julian. A Julie. It's a J. It's a J. Anyone got a J? Anyone got a middle name? That's a J. Yeah, this guy's fucking unreal.
This guy who appears on this video game stream that we're all discussing obsessively for the morning thinks he's famous or something. He isn't better than me. I was trying to do basically where you get where you just.
I think it's appropriate, but
broken now, of course. Mike's gone.
Oh, broken out. Mike's
There
gone.
you go. Back.
There you're back. You're back.
No, that's exactly what they're like. They're like the guy who's just like barely holding it together with their shit opinion in a bar. They're just about to get thrown out on their ass, aren't they?
No, but just listen though. He goes. They think they're superstar celebrities or something. Go and watch Lands from before 2016 or so. Everything seemed so much more real, and everyone was more humble.
That's the year he's picked. Why has he picked that year? He's way off on the year for a start off. You're about 10 years off, even anything vaguely plausible. Everyone was a cunt way before that.
And then somebody goes, I just hate, this is Lapodka1, big Na'vi fan. I just hate there is so little personality in analysts these days. Wonder why that is, by the way. Because anyone who shows one, you fucking witch hunt them to death. You silly cunts. But okay, fine. I just hate that there is so little personality in analysts these days. Sponge, pimp, maniac. I'll just randomly pick 3 analysts that, I think fit my argument. One of them being a guy who's being criticized for having too much personality. Good job. They can all be great guys, but Jesus, those desks are boring to watch. At least for me, it's just the same old. No real banter. It's just Sponge being a cunt. That's the whole segment. Like the producers in his ear. Sponge, mate. This one's a bit dry. Yeah, Pimp's talking about the game. Can you just ramp this one up just by being a cunt for fucking 10 minutes? Is that possible? Can you just be a cunt, please? Right. Anyway, and then of course that's upvoted with people going. Totally agree. Agreed.
Plus one.
Right.
That's also something about HLTV when I realised they were beyond repair, was when they all just started doing replies like plus one. It's like, all right, man.
Right? No, but like, here's the thing. Because if you ever want to play moron bingo, right? Whenever anyone is getting witch hunted by a mob on social media, somebody will always say this. And it's just like, way! Moron bingo! The morons are here. Right, so here it goes.
Is he going to go, he's a public figure?
No. Close. It's on there. It's on the bingo. Tapper Me a Ball says, if you want the sport to grow, attract more people and advertise. Yeah, here it is.
If there's one thing in esports that is the most annoying thing ever, it's the fact that everyone, the second they come into esports, knows every single behavior that they don't like. Coincidentally, Rich, the supercomputer has found out lines up with the sport not growing. And in fact, I believe the term is dying, killing it. Yeah. Every single decision they do want implemented would definitely make it grow and probably become the new NFL, basically.
Yep. It goes, if you want sports to grow and attract more people and advertisers, having the faces of the broadcast, that's like 13-year-old teenagers shouting in the room, is not the route to go. They need to be professional and, of course, make some good, light-hearted banter. You don't see professional desks in other sports at like 13-year-olds.
Has he never seen like fucking Skip Bayless and that? That's what they do. That's the whole thing. It gets more views.
Right. So first of all, Tapper Me balls. You seriously go to a doctor. I'm 100% here because you don't seem to be interfacing with reality in a way I would expect somebody who was well to do. So first of all, have we or have we not had unprecedented growth in esports? Let's just measure it over the 10 years, right? So where are we at now? Right, to where we were 10 years ago. So what you're saying is, even though we've had unprecedented growth, unprecedented investment, we've crossed over into the mainstream, we're now being referenced on late night TV, we got comedy shows about esports being made, we got movies about esports being made, starring Will Ferrell, we've got all of this stuff going on, we've got franchise leagues, we've got tens of millions of dollars of investment going in, we're now even speculating, is it a bubble? Like, is the fucking tulip mania all over again? We've got people who are so big in esports that they are literally transcending even mainstream celebrities, movie stars, everything. the biggest media event of all time was a gaming event by the fucking way. But of course, actually, Sponge stealing an opinion has held back the entire fucking industry. Yes, you've cracked the fucking case, Sherlock cunt. Well done. Brilliant. And then he goes as well, the objective thing they need to do is make light-hearted banter. Well, that fixes everything, doesn't it? Light-hearted banter. Your assessment of what is light-hearted banter, that's what we need to do. We need to hire this guy, Tapper Balls. And then when he says, you don't see professional desks, you know, just acting like 13-year-olds. Mate, I was next to where they filmed inside the fucking NBA, where when they make a point on each other, they're fucking getting up and like dunking on the fucking, you know, they're slamming it down, Shaq's falling over, everyone's fucking all up in each other's face.
Half the jokes are about how Shaq's fat as well. Like, it's not even like it's all highbrow material or anything.
No, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that you could look at everything that's happened and have this opinion. That is mental. Right, now, just because this isn't going to take up the whole podcast, although it easily could, it's unbelievable. As I said, just go through that thread and you will just see a swarm of morons like you have never seen before. So what Sponge decided to do was just make a joke out of it, right? Because that's how Sponge is. He's a funny dude, right? So are you ready to play this clip, Sam? I recommend you watch it, Duncan, if you haven't seen it.
All right.
Right, let's 3, 2, 1 it, boys.
Right. Hang on. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
As well. He's joining us.
I haven't had my makeup done yet, Alex.
You haven't? No.
Yeah, I had a bit of a break when that Renegades game was on, sweating in fucking buckets.
What's that in your hand, Chad?
Oh, he's got a little book.
Yeah. Oh, no, you guys know I write my notes. Wait,
Yeah.
this isn't any different to normal.
Right.
Okay.
This is
Can I
pretty
see
good,
that?
actually.
Oh,
Stolen ID. What the?
Wow.
What's in here?
This is
Wow,
pretty good.
liquid air.
This is good, actually.
Get off. You can't look at an analyst's notes like that,
Come
Sean.
on.
Right. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can find the human version of Chad. Can you bring him out as well? Does he get to hang out with us?
Let me message him on Twitter.
Yeah, see if
That's pretty good, actually.
wait,
He hits all the fucking points
Yeah, I
to
got
me.
block, Sean.
Yep, so there you go.
Straight to the block
It's a
button.
Sponge. Just in case you're wondering why, it's a Sponge. Stolen ideas. He's just made light of it, right? Now, who could possibly have a problem with that? Who could possibly have a problem with that? Well, morons, of course. Morons, right? Top comment in this thread about that clip says, it'd just be simple for him just to apologize. Again, accepting
Do
the
they want, like,
premise.
is this supposed to be like a Stalin-esque short trial where he just appears like, I confess to all my crimes against the state and will accept the full punishment?
Right.
Like, what's he supposed to do to be a funny segment?
And then he edited it and goes, it looks like he did apologize. Good on the lad, right? And then somebody replied with going, yeah, and he ruined it right after by generalizing Reddit from its minority opinions. This is a 3,000 net upvote thread filled with these moron opinions. This isn't fringe. It was the top post at one point for that day. If you don't understand what consensus is, fuck off. You're not mentally fit to have a discussion about it, right? And then, like, all Chad had said, minus 150 downvotes. I have a good feeling this is just going to turn into a character assassination thread, which is fine. You guys do what you got to do for your 24 hours of Reddit drama. None of you know me, but I'm in the spotlight, so you put me in the crosshairs. You won't stop me doing what I love every day. Thanks for watching CS. And people downvoted that and hurled abuse at him for saying that. To the point where, by the way, Chad deleted his Reddit account. He just deleted it. So congrats.
You know what
That's
I'm going
one-
to guess? I'm going to go ahead and get ahead of the story here before you tell me the rest. I'm going to guess, even though actually his behavior there, Richard, one, suggests a level of maturity, like he knows it's a waste of time to keep arguing people. Two, suggests he might even actually have his feelings hurt, like he might feel like he's unwelcome in the community or people don't want him anymore. I'm going to guess instead, this is now interpreted as a hostile act that adds further to his crimes, deleting his Reddit account. How dare he?
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. Absolutely. That put the replies to that comment, and people going, "Lol, he's deleted his Reddit account." Like, listen, congrats. You took a guy who was willing to interact with the scene on Reddit in your backyard. Strange, really, because you were just accusing him of being so stuck up and not humble and arrogant and aloof. Yet he would actually come down to your level, you fucking morons, and interact with you, right? Something he's absolutely only going to lose every time he does, by the way. This is why you get blocked. Because every time someone tries to talk to y'all, you just treat them like fucking human garbage. So congrats, he's now deleted his Reddit account. He's had it for years. He used to post regularly in threads, used to wade in, used to do AMAs. None of that's happening anymore. Congrats, well done, well done. You invented a narrative about him stealing opinions, ran with it, wouldn't even let him apologize for it, wouldn't even let him joke about it. All of these things apparently compounded his crimes, which weren't crimes to begin with, and you're just pushing somebody further and further away from interacting with you. Some of the comments, by the way, it's always the same with Reddit as well. They establish consensus, and then when somebody criticizes that consensus being established, they all go, it's almost like we're all different people or something. Why is that a front page thread then? Why does it have so many net upvotes?
Have you noticed, by the way, this
Why
is
don't
like
you
a
downvote
classic
it?
trick that people like to use on the internet. It goes like this. So on the one hand, they themselves are upset that you are expressing an opinion about someone else's opinion, right? They're annoyed that an opinion exists they don't like or aren't interested in. So they then explain a mixture of either they claim it never happened, you prove it did happen. If you prove it happened, they say it was only one guy. If you say it's not one guy, it was a few guys. You go, well, so what? Basically, the argument always comes down to this, right? As long as it's not literally everyone in the entire world, it's not everyone. So don't mention any opinion I don't like. Like, I don't know why that's even an interesting take. Like, all it takes is one opinion to set someone off, of course. Even could be a complete nobody. The point is when the idea gets in your brain, it has the effect it has, doesn't it? That's the problem with media, is that all of us can just radicalize the fuck out of each other with one little interaction. It's the wrong one at the wrong time.
There was some blinding comments in this. I'll save I'll save this last one. Why does Chad deserve the hate? Well, it shifted. Somebody said,
I mean, the obvious answer would be he never deserves hate. That would be massive hyperbole and none of us.
No.
And let me guess, how did he deserve the hate? Let's see.
Yeah, okay.
It's like a choose your own quest adventure.
Yeah, basically, he threw shade to everyone on Reddit because what? We are all the same here on Reddit, wanting drama and accusing people. Yeah, exactly right.
I know this guy.
A guy called Impervious, right? Replied to a comment saying he doesn't owe you already an apology, and just see if you can do the gymnastics to get to this place mentally, Duncan. This is a good one.
Here we go.
You can say that for pretty much anything in life. It doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do sometimes, or that people shouldn't expect it. No, that's exactly. You shouldn't expect an apology. No. That's exactly the only take here. What do you mean it's the right thing to do? Apologize for stealing opinions? Like, I can't. Like, I just can't.
You notice it also does get into another thing, which is people always claim as though they want an apology, right? The real problem is this. They don't want an apology for the person they actually think was upset. They want an apology themselves. That's the other part that's so weird, isn't it? Like, they don't really want Sponge to say, I'm sorry to the fet athlete or whatever the fuck guy. Yeah. They just want him to say sorry to them, even though he didn't do anything to them.
Yeah. And then just to cap this entire segment off, right? Because it just becomes like horseshoe theory every time. Thorin, I'm sure you're aware, on Reddit, you are a divisive figure. Every time you come up on Reddit.
Here we go. Is there a chain of comments about me?
No. It's just literally right. Sponge got so reviled. Somebody suggesting, wish we had more Thorin instead of this clown. So there you go.
That's how far it's gone.
That's how far it's gone for poor old Chad.
That's like someone coming out now.
You're the solution.
That's like someone coming out now going, Boris Johnson, what a cunt. Where's old Margaret Thatcher at? She was brilliant, wasn't she? What's the reach on this?
Listen, you're all responsible, guys. When you see shit like that, and if you don't downvote it, fuck you. Just fuck you. I know half of y'all as well probably saw it and were like, this is stupid. But if we upvote the stupid thing, there will be drama. I just can't deal with it, mate. Like fucking gremlins. can't be bothered.
Because
So there you
that's
go.
literally part of the reason why this all happened. Because what happened is some of them are just like, I'm bored for a few days. So we just try and melt down
Yeah.
someone's whole life and personality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not? Have a go.
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable thing to do.
I
Yeah,
know.
let's go.
Should
for
we
it. I
just
know.
egg them on, see if we can get them like close to suicide, and at the end say, "Well, the world's a cold, hard place. That's the
I know.
territory that comes with having any job ever."
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? Are you thin-skinned or something?
That's always my favorite, by the way, where they make it seem like I would describe it the other way, but with a shared sentiment. Like, yes, you know what? If you come into a job that's like a media job or a public thing, it's going to come with some consequences that you're not going to like, but unfortunately, they will be occupational hazards. They spin it the other way as though like it's even a good thing. Like, what do you expect? That's the price of fame.
I
What,
know.
just have people wrecking me? I don't think that is somehow. That definitely is not the price.
It's they always say the same thing as well. It's like when people are doing it to me, I say, "Okay, can I just come to where you work then and just stand over you and basically, you know, can I just stand over you and basically fucking like, you know, shout at you, berate you, hurl insults at you while you're doing your job? Can you know?" And they always go, "Well, no, that'd be unreasonable. I don't work in the public eye." I'm not working in the public eye neither. It's Twitter, you fucking mad cunts. Like, oh, it's unreal. And then just to show you, by the way, I love this, right? Like, breaking live, everybody is so fucked in the feed. Like, the sooner we start addressing this mental health time bomb, the better. Look at this. A thread, right? From one of HLTV's most despised users, probably had multiple accounts banned for racism. Comes in, makes a thread. Richard Lewis, mentally ill. Why is he so mad about Reddit HLTV all the time? Says the obsessive guy watching a podcast with people in that he doesn't like. So, and just read some of the comments there. He is a fat F word. That's good. Like that. Yeah, you can read some of the comments there. These people, unfortunately, this is the CS scene, by the way, guys. Don't show it, Sam. Don't show it.
You
get banned for showing
for
it.
shit.
All right.
Yeah, don't show it. You get banned. But yeah, this is literally the CS scene, and you wonder why people don't want to engage with it, right? You wonder why people are like tapping out and not doing events. You wonder why talent will just do anything they can to put barriers between you and them, right? Because it's the only way to live. Because unfortunately, those people walk among us. They walk among us. You don't know. You don't know who the fucking deranged fucking incel
And why I'll just
moron
never
is.
accept the premise when someone tries to tell me that like 45% of people in esports are women. It's like, I fucking wish, mate. I do not think that is true somehow.
Yeah,
My own life
I'd
experience
sleep
tells me
easier at night if that was the
I know.
statistic. You know what I mean?
I think
let me just show you one other thing, and then we'll talk about the news. Because this was also just another fucking example of why like you've just got to stay away from events if you're me. Like, I just can't do it. I don't know if you saw this. I tweeted it out. It was kind of round about the time everyone in Overwatch just went mental and were tweeting about me for a week for some reason. Hang on, I just gotta find this tweet. Where the fuck did I put it? Man, I fucking been pretty active on Twitter actually. I usually don't tweet this much. Where was it? Let me just hang on. I'll have to do a search here. You're all just gonna have to wait because you've got to see this, Duncan. You won't even believe it. Because I can't imagine being the type of person that would basically oh fuck, why can't I find it? Well, whatever, anyway, right? So what happened was there was this guy, and he basically, while all that weird Overwatch stuff was fucking like going off, he tweeted, and it was a picture of me and him at an event like in 2016 or 2015 or something like that. And it was like him, you know, arm round, taking a couple of pictures, holding up a sign, cut 2 photographs. And he was like going, oh, well, you know, I wish I could have got involved with blocking Richard Lewis before I met him at this event. It's like, so wait, hang on, right? You're a guy who you came up to me, somebody you clearly don't like, took a photo of me, and waited and held on to it for years. And then when you saw me involved in a drama, you tweeted at me to say, haha, I've met you and I don't like you.
It's like the people who are just messaging you like some sort of fucked up like Rick and Morty scheme, like do it, block me, motherfucker, block me. It's like there's definitely nothing mentally going wrong here, is the guys like.
Let me show you another one
as well. You blocked everyone I know, block me as well.
Like you won't even believe this, by the way. So this, right? This is mental. This is really fucking mental. Right. A Destiny fan, right?
The best. Oh, my favorite already.
So I went and took Maria up to the doctors, and we were driving en route to like Maine, so we stopped off somewhere just to get a bite to eat. And somebody made a thread, right? Just sat next to Richard Lewis in an Applebee's in New Hampshire. Right?
Seems like a reasonable topic to have a thread
right.
about.
No, mate, I wish this was just it. Like a sighting, I can handle a sighting. But then like in the comments, like people were going, oh, ask him a question. What did he smell like? Right, you can bring this one up. It's fine. And then the guy was going, didn't want to ask him a question because I couldn't think of a way to ask how to say I don't like you. Right. So okay, no problem. Right. Let's. It's
almost like that wouldn't be a reasonable thing to say to someone you've never met and don't know.
Yeah, never met. Right. The guy on top of making this thread. Actually fucking DM'd me repeatedly because I had my DMs open, right? And it was unbelievable what he said. I'll have to fucking show this on stream at some point, but it was unbelievable. Let me hang on. I've got his name here. It's Avaran. I'll just go and get these DMs. But he was like saying, "Oh, just what are you doing here in New Hampshire? Like, what are you doing here? Is something happening?" And I was like, is this fucking real? Like it can't be real, but it was real. And he was like, and I was like, dude, this is like not normal behavior. This is like, you shouldn't be fucking, obsessing over strangers, messaging them on Twitter, demanding, like, especially when you clearly don't like them. Like, do you not understand how fucking disturbing this is? And apparently not. He doesn't understand it. I told him as well, like, oh, this is disturbing behavior. You know what I mean? And like, he just didn't get it. And that's why, like, I can't. Oh yeah, this is the other thing he said. He said, why did you eat at Applebee's? I'm gonna tell the Queen your brick card is done. So why are you being jocular and jovial with me? I'm a total fucking stranger. You also made a Reddit thread. You've also made a Reddit thread saying that you don't like me. Like, why? What is this? Like, how mentally ill is this person? So yeah, like, I guess I'm the mental ill one because I don't want fucking creeps and incels coming up, shaking my hand, getting all up in my business, and then probably just going, nice picture, Rich. Yeah! And just fucking stabbing me 20 times in the fucking chest because you're all mentally fucking broken by somebody having opinions on social media. I'm sorry, Rich. Yeah! Soaring off my fucking head.
I saw Richard Lewis get stabbed to death the other day. As he was dying, I couldn't find a way to tell him that I know who you are. I just don't agree with some of your opinions, sir, as he died.
Yeah. It was,
what did he smell like?
As he lay there bleeding out, I did say to him, you know what, Richard? The last few episodes of By the Numbers haven't been good. I'm a $1 patron, by the way. Can you call an ambulance? Just fuck him, man. Fuck this fucking business. Right, okay. Let's do some news. So there was a little bit of drama around the Cloud9 changes. I don't know if you saw this, but basically, like, I don't know why young players constantly fucking do this to themselves, but they fucking do it to themselves, and it's an observable phenomenon. And if anything, this podcast should serve as. Stay off your TwitLongers and stay off your personal streams when you get dropped by a team. And when you're 18, you think you know shit, and give your fucking personal wisdom and personal take on, what was going on in the team, because you'll always just make a cunt of yourself. And what happened was, we know Tens got replaced for Sabrosa in Cloud9. And he went on a stream, he was doing his AMAP stuff, and he was talking about it, and he said, yeah, well, the reason I got dropped is because I was the only one who was arguing. It was this insane. He goes, I was the only one that was arguing in the team, and I was the only one who didn't believe in the team's vision, and I was the only one who thought what we were doing and how we were playing wasn't that good. And it's like, right, Tens, my dude, Daps has gone to bat for you publicly for how long? He's been hyping up this kid, saying, "Oh, he should be on a pro team. He should be this. He should be that." You get in a team with him. It's Cloud9. It's still a big deal. It's still a big brand, and then you get dropped for horrendous levels of underperformance. Frankly, I mean, if you're not hitting a 1 rating and you're not doing something else that we can't see, and you're not an in-game leader, your position's on the chopping block. I mean, that's true for every pro. If that's your baseline level of performance. And then you're going to come out publicly and say, oh, well, actually, yeah, I got dropped because I was arguing and saying the whole team was shit. Now, if he was like carrying every game as well, you would understand it, but no. That was just really fucking weird to me. Like, why you would put yourself in that position. Because as a young player, you should be making yourself look like a desirable player to pick up. Now you sound like a fucking asshole.
Yeah, my whole take on that is kind of similar. It's basically that, first of all, as you said, the premise he presents only is like a cool angle if you're the star player. If you are like fucking Twists or something, or Liege or some superstar level talent like that, you can then have maybe the prerogative to say to your IGL, I don't agree with the way you're doing things. Or I would even say, if you want to be more reasonable, maybe the way you're doing things isn't helping my game work the way I want. I would suggest that's probably what a young player really is expressing frustration at, because he played like shit, as you alluded to. Like, he wasn't a super skilled player. He didn't break out in his first lands with Cloud9. Actually, I personally thought the fact that they were going to double down and bring him in anyway showed like a level of commitment on their part, that they thought there's more potential they can bring out. So all I'll say is this, Tens, is Cloud9's own behavior is the opposite to what you're pretending it is. You're making it sound like they just chucked you in a team, played totally the wrong way, give you some idiot IGL who doesn't know what he's doing, and now you were the guy speaking out. That's not the case. I know from behind the scenes, I'll even say, by the way, they were really going to bat for this guy, and he was going to actually be a part of this team, as far as I can tell. Like, this wasn't I personally thought it was just a stand-in. If he blew it the first 2 lands, just get replaced. But apparently they were going to really go for it. I'd also say as well, Daps is someone who you cannot argue with the results he has had over his career. Like, he has had a ridiculous record of getting talent, bringing that talent up, making the best use of that talent. Like, there's a guy who's really done it, and crucially, isn't known to have a big ego as an IGL. So he's actually a very reasonable guy to work with as well. So, like, there could totally be some justifiable elements to this. Maybe things aren't the way Tens wanted. Maybe it didn't work for his game. I would just say the way he's chosen to communicate, though, is very, very poorly chosen. Like, it's only going to do damage to him and his career. And quite frankly, he doesn't know this, but he's thinking he's explaining away his problems. All he's doing is explain to people that he has some problems. I would say that's the distinction to make here.
Yeah, it's like just fucking ridiculous. And then Stewie comes in and said, like, after watching, because Stewie's been pretty good considering, in regards to Cloud9, considering, Jack basically talked about, like, framed him leaving like it was a betrayal or an abandonment. And he said, after watching Tens' explanation, I sent you the tweet there, Sam. You can bring that up. That's not going to get us banned. After watching Tens' explanation, I totally disagree with what he's saying. Summing up the entire explanation, everything he's explained contradicts itself. Cloud9's play style is actually structured, but the individual can pick what he wants to do rather than being micromanaged. Because that was another thing he was saying. He said he wanted to be micromanaged more. And it's like, I think that's a pretty big fucking ask when you've got an in-game leader that famously...
It's the opposite of what most pros want nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. And then because the system just requires 5 minds in one and understanding what teammates are doing around each other, even if you're not a part of a play. If you aren't a part of the plays your teammates are making can cause movement on your side of the map as well. It's very similar to Fnatic. Anyway, I hope Cloud9 find their footing and find their success soon. So, I mean, look, if you're talking about players like getting good opportunities and then kind of fucking them up, this isn't like Ricky levels of dumbness or like basically saying, yeah, well, I had explicit instructions from my in-game leader and I fucking denied them all. But like, honestly, if you'd had good performances, you'd get another shot. But I kind of feel like going from Cloud9 to straight out with very average performances to now creating like a weird little stink on the way out. Plus with all the other drama that was going on, like did he have a bot account? Vax sucks looking at all of his clips. Over there in fucking Incel Town, it's prescribed wisdom that he's absolutely the most blatant cheater of all time, even though his statistics are terrible. So I always love the cognitive dissonance that it requires. Like, he's terrible, isn't he? Yeah, and he's cheating his tits off. Like, I just don't even understand how you get there. But anyway, so he's had to deal with all of that, and it's just like, honestly, these kind of things do have an impact, and could hamper him getting picked up by another team in future. Understand that there are a lot of promising young NA players that like get chances and then it just never goes anywhere. And I think we might be witnessing it happening all over again because he doesn't seem to have really learned any lessons. And kind of seem to have gone in with a bit bigger of an ego than what his position warranted.
Well, I think it's unfortunate about this scenario is I don't think he understands how big a chance he got. He's on fucking Cloud9 and his IGL is DAPS. Like, that should not ever be your situation as a beginning pro player. Like, in what fucking universe as a rookie pro do you get to be on an org the size of Cloud9 and have an IGL who's actually accomplished big things? It's a guy who earlier this year was like top 4 every tournament, who's been in big international finals. Like, I think TenZ, this is one of those things where it'll probably be years from now when he realizes it, but he won't realize until he's been in worse scenarios that, listen, I'm sure there was problems, but this is also a very good opportunity for him in his career. And he hasn't made the best of it.
Nah, definitely not. So there was that. What was the other fucking story? Oh, yes. DK did another story today. We've got this weird ongoing saga that's kind of been going on. We know OG, the Dota organization that just won TI, are going to be coming into the CS space and are going to be, having a roster. They're already out there. They're already going to be, we're just kind of questioning what's going on in terms of like buyouts and everything. But the original roster that got announced included Yampy, a Finnish player. And now apparently that doesn't look like it's going to go ahead. Now it looks like the Bulgarian player Poison is going to be the dedicated AWPer for the team. And DK's put this out today. Poison's in Windigo, for those that don't know. It's a very strange one because it's like the initial announcement, you're like, okay, well, Yampy's meant to be this like breakout star. That's the gamble. So now what you're doing is Yampy goes out before he's even had a chance to come in and take a look at him. And now you're taking a similar gamble. I'd even go so far as to say with a player that's maybe not as well regarded. So I know Poison's like got a lot of eyes on him and people have been saying like he's had some good performances like when Windigo won WASG and stuff. But it's a very, very strange to be sort of tinkering with the roster before you've even had a chance to get like the roster up and running. It makes me wonder if something else has gone on there.
Yeah, unfortunately, the real concern with this roster is that it doesn't have all the pieces that you need for a real roster. Like, it's got the basic core of a roster, but then it's lacking a couple of names. And as we discussed on past episodes, because right now it's fucking really hard to get superstar players. Like, you have to pay so much for the buyout that what everyone's trying to do is what G2 did, is you try and gamble on someone who seems like they have the skill in terms of the eye test. They just aren't in a position either geographically or in their career where they cost loads of money. So everyone's just gambling on those players. One thing I think is very interesting about this particular move, this team that they're trying to like, because if you notice, the impetus behind the news stories basically goes like this. Like, the players want this deal done. The org wants this deal done, but their old orgs don't want the deal done. So really, like, part of the reason I think why you keep seeing this in the news all the time is that OG's trying to pressure this deal to actually fucking happen, because obviously they can't get it done inside the boardroom, as it were.
Yeah. So just to elaborate further, apparently, and this is according to DK as well, that there is there is some sort of rumors that he's meant to have a connection to a VAC band account.
Right.
Because if you go look back in August, Yampy was invited to FPL, and apparently he had a VAC band account in his past. So maybe OG are thinking, well, we can't really take a risk with that because if Valve investigate it and and it is prescribed knowledge that he does have a VAC ban and it was his account and it did happen.
Sorry, isn't that?
Yeah, well, then he's not going to be able to play at majors, which obviously is the kind of thing that they're aspiring to do. It's interesting, actually. Again, we talk a lot about like community hypocrisy. When that was announced, when Face It Mikey came out and said Yampy's going to be in FPL, everybody was like replying, going, "Oh, great job, yeah, good kid. He's a good up and coming kid." It's really weird how like the scene will witch hunt like kids based on like a few clips. You know what I mean? Like just based on one or two clips, everyone will be going after tens and saying like, "Oh, he's a cheater, it's blatant or whatever." Guy who's attached to an actual VAC band account, everyone's like saying, "Oh, congratulations, yeah, great job on getting invited into FPL, great job on running shoulders with the pros and everything else." It's like I really can't figure out the CS scene at all sometimes. Like it's like they profess to have a zero tolerance for cheating. They profess to have a zero tolerance for match fixing. The reality is you just play favorites on every issue. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. It's the same with like all of that sponge madness in a way. I guess that would be the theme of the show. It's just literally, oh, hey, he's got a VAC band account, but we like him and we've created a story in our mind that he's some young kid being held back. Or, it's, this kid is a young kid getting an opportunity and we think some of his clips are fishy, so fuck him. I just don't get it.
By the way, one thing to say as well, an interesting detail about this particular story is the other stories all made sense. Like Cold Zero was obviously trying to be signed by FaZe for ages. That just had to get done. People know the EG thing was pretty quick. But this OG thing, it's actually massively in OG's benefit if they can do this deal really quickly, because the next few months is when those orgs that people have heard the rumblings about, who are like the big NA orgs and orgs that haven't been in Counter-Strike before, are all going to go ham signing players and trying to get rosters. So, like, in theory, there's going to be a massive gold rush for CS teams. So, actually, that's what's a bit weird to me about the way this particular team's going, because this team has like the pieces to be a very good squad. Obviously, like a very interesting mix of like MBK and Valde, etc. But like, I'm actually amazed that they either haven't already been signed or they're not like waiting for the big gold rush. Because I think like in the next few months is where some people, as you've seen with the whole Jason Lake and Alexi B thing, some people are going to have some insane salaries in like 3 or 4 months from now. There's going to be some big time buys. Yeah,
and big time buys for players that maybe don't necessarily.
Some of them might not even be the best at all. Exactly.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
We're probably going to be in a world, if you think about it, right? If you just look at how many teams want to come in, what the value is, there's probably going to be like a whole bunch of teams who make more money than Astralis. That's the world, and they won't be anywhere close to the level. That's the world we live in.
Oh yeah,
I mean, get in the game.
I think that's already happening now, right? I mean,
sure.
I think when salaries that were getting talked about were like $35,000 a month, for players to go and play at Complexity, you're like, fucking hell, dude. I mean, like,
that's one thing, by the way.
I'd be very surprised if Astralis are getting anything like
this.
That.
Is one thing players have to start being more reasonable about. I don't want to hear them talk about like oversaturation and how hard they work as though nothing's changed. You literally, if you're in a top 10 team, fly business class, long haul around the world, getting fucking pampered. You go to literal 5- and 4-star hotels in the best capital cities in the world, where you have a room to yourself and you can stay, etc. You have one game a day. You play 1 best-of-3 maximum a day in most formats. Yep. And on top of that, you often get days off between, and you have a PC to practice on outside of the tournament, and sometimes even have PCs available days before the event to warm up on and boot camp on. Like, I agree. I've no doubt within that there's still stress and there's still times that you want to a knob and it's really hard. But the point is, like, look at how much the fucking scene has leveled up for our pros, even in just the last 3 or 4 years. It's actually amazing. And then I'll even add in, another thing that used to really suck about being away from home and on the tournament circuit is you miss your normal life. in the modern day with all the fucking streaming services for music and TV shows, you can also live like half your normal bloody life on the road. Like, it's actually amazing how much we've offset a lot of the problems of having a big circuit, in my opinion. Players aren't actually grateful enough in that sense. I hope they realize a bit more.
It's definitely been a really fucking tough one to kind of like, you know, I definitely feel we're getting to the stage of where a lot of those struggles that we've had to go through to get us to this bit are going really underappreciated. And I've said this a bunch of times. It's like the player union, you know, the CSPPPA, they fucking, you know, have been instrumental in like driving things like getting, you know, practice computers and better hotels and stuff and better flights and, you know, whatever it is. And it's like, you know, there are battles that you really should be concerned with that you don't seem to be as much. And it does kind of feel almost like we put much more emphasis on the money and the lifestyle stuff over actual, you know, what we need for the scene to be sustainable, what we need, you know, like just little things as well, like just, you know, push back on like media stuff, media work. And I don't know, dude. I mean, again, I want to get Scott on the show sometime and talk about where it's at, because he's been like their biggest vocal, you know, mouthpiece, but he is just a rep, and he's already said, like, with Do Not Peak, you know, he's going to be looking to be involved in that less and less. And the whole point was to appoint a player rep. I do worry about what's going to happen when players are running it without any kind of like older, more mature, kind of, you know, clearer voice in the room. And again, I'm saying this with, like, just in case Scott watches this, I'm saying this with very little knowledge as to how it works, because I keep that professional distance. I don't ask Scott to like tell me the inner workings of the CSPPA. I wouldn't even bother asking, and be, you know, he's going to obviously not do that. But, you know, I do worry about what happens when it finally becomes completely player driven and without any external, you know, kind of influences.
I have real concerns that they're going to pick some really stupid hills to die on and some battles that just don't even make sense in the long. Like, people already saw, I got triggered a few months back during the major when there was that whole comment that implied that players wanted, and this was their words, to have an equal say with tournament organizers as to when tournaments were run, where, and details of like logistics of the event. Like, what they didn't seem to get was, what triggered me wasn't the concept of having a say. It was that wording, like equal say. Like the idea the disposable, literally replaceable part of the equation, who puts zero into it, invests nothing, carries zero risk, are going to get an equal say with the person losing money running the event. Like, that alone triggered the fuck out of me, Rich, because it just showed me how far a player's perception of how the industry works is from anyone else in the industry. And so I would just say to players on that sort of a thing, be very careful not to like step outside your bounds and kind of comment too strongly on things you don't know about, because just the way you phrase that, the optics of how it looks is going to depend on how people react to you. Because it would be so easy if I was the TO to see that and be like, fuck these guys. Like, I can't work with someone with that mentality, even if that's not really what you mean, you know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's and it's like I said, I mean, there's been like lots of weird stuff going on, like just, you know, like we all talk about the precarious position we're in with Valve. Like the amount of players that like say shit like, oh, majors don't matter, you know, they're fucking, you know, we're not even thinking about the major, it's not important to us. And it's like, well, all right, well, I guess Valve might just fucking remove majors then, because why do it if no one makes any money on it and TOs don't like it and it creates drama all the time? You know, it's like, why not just, why bother having one then? You know, I'm sure that's a conversation that will definitely come up in Valve. And if you historically know, there's lots of stuff. There's lots of examples of like the Valve. It took Valve a long time to even want to engage with the CS community, because they were very unreasonable for like large periods of time. You know, backlash to any little change, any little tweak. That's why it got left fallow for like so many years. You know, especially Source. That was just like, well, we're just gonna let that one swirl down the toilet because the community's fucking deranged. So I don't know, dude. I agree. I'm gonna have to watch that with interest. It isn't, you know, and again, we've had stuff like pushback on the PEA, but nothing about these other exclusivity leagues. People, you happy to work with the Blast? You know, I don't know. Yet publicly saying that you don't like that kind of format. but then not saying it after you're in contracts with the Blast to play in tournaments that have that kind of format.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? People don't realize, by the way, this is another area. So, like, I'll just go ahead and say it because this isn't even controversial to say. One of the things about the recent political climate for the last 2 months, I'd say, basically since TI, when they held TI in China, is it's just made a mockery of everyone who thought they could be political on Twitter, because all the people who are political about every other issue under the sun, it was conspicuous when they said nothing about China. They said nothing about TI. They said nothing about this recent thing with Blizzard and with the guy getting... They didn't say anything. So what they don't get is, that's the problem. It's not that they have to say something about the issue. They don't. It's their prerogative to say nothing. But it's conspicuous when they say something about everything else. So the point in this scenario here is when you have an opinion on everything else under the fucking sun and it's a bunch of stupid shit, well, then in that scenario, unsurprisingly, then no one's going to interact with you on a reasonable level. Like, now Valve's going to think you're a fucking joke if the things you were complaining about were just pointless, mild shit, and there was some important issue. Like, you got to... That's the thing for me with the players. I mean, we've already referenced this in the past, because one of the mad things about this show in particular is because we ran this show now for, like, the better part of 4 years. We've seen just on the show fucking theme cycle. So as people might know, it literally was ESL exclusivity on this show was the topic 4 years ago or whatever. Then there was the topic as well about pros making their own union and whether they do that. And if people can remember, one of the first things pros did when they had their own little affinity group was stupidly have the most powerful pros just say, well, we should just demand all the first class fights. Like what I just said, basically, that they've already got now. But back then they wanted, right? That was really their fucking priorities. These people weren't smart enough to think it's stuff like the format of the tournament or how many days off you have. That should be the number one priority. So I agree. Like if you look at some of the things they do and don't complain about, it's like, if you're going to complain that much, first of all, be legit and say when you get something. Like when Valve does upgrade things, when ESL does upgrade things, when the Blast do things the way you want, say that. But also, and this is very key, if you're going to be a fucking pro player, either yourself publicly or with the CSPPA, making power moves like voting to have round robin, you have to take it on the nose when round robin turns out to be shit and you don't like it. You can't pretend like you didn't have any say in it. Because that's one of the things that does tilt me is like a lot of these format changes. You wouldn't believe how many times over the last few years I'll ask a guy in a tournament organizer, like, why did you make that format change? You're like, these are players wanted it, you know, like we thought if we do it this way, we'll be happier. Be like, but that's shit though. I'm like, yeah, we know that now. But even players don't like that. Yeah, well, yeah, they've even said that as well. It's like that's one area where players, like, again, just acknowledge that you're young guys who don't know what you're talking about sometimes. Just say, here's my opinion. I'm not super set on it. I don't know for sure, but here's how I'm feeling now. I don't think anyone's ever going to do that, man. That's way too reasonable of a perspective.
No. You'd have to. Yeah, you'd have to.
There's no young man ever goes like that. By the way, I'm just a young guy, just a young bloke out here trying to make my name. Don't even know if I'm know what I'm talking about. But anyway.
But this is how I feel in this moment in time. Can anyone give me any dissenting opinions? No one ever does that.
We all know what you really say. The thing about Valve is they're a piece of shit. Why is everything's hyperbole?
I know it's all extremes, mate. It's all extremes.
He's never just someone who's just a bad guy. He's a piece of shit.
You know, I know. Like, yeah, literally. Fucking it. We've even got American politicians.
It just reminds me of that like Louis CK bit where he just says something like whenever anyone says that, he always just imagines someone as like a little baby. Like you just imagine like, oh, look at it, little baby. Oh, it's a piece of shit. This here is a piece of human shit. Like imagine someone 20 years later doing that.
So, another story that came up, I know you noticed this just before we went live, Faceit revealing a system called Minerva. And what this is it's working with Google sort of machine learning technology to curb toxicity in games, and in particular, when it says toxicity, it means abusive behavior and verbally abusive behavior. This comes kind of hot on the heels. Actually, there was something I tweeted about where there was an Israeli player who got basically like he was playing a game. A bunch of people like got paired up with him. And they started like abusing him, you know, making Holocaust jokes, like just vile anti-Semitic shit. So to try and diffuse it, he was like going, yes, it's okay, you know, whatever. Like just sort of agreeing with them, and they banned him and not the person that abused. abused him, and he was like, well, "Why am I banned?" Because that's just how it works. So I tweeted it out saying like, you can't have that. Like, people shouldn't have to put up with that fucking bullshit. Just trying to fucking play a fucking.
What's funny is
you
this
shouldn't
is
have to
one
put
of
up
those
with that bullshit
moments.
anyway.
Like, this is one of those moments when I know I've just gone too deep on the internet and no one else is going to feel me on this, but I'm just going to say it anyway, because the problem is it's certain patterns where you see the same behavior exhibiting that trigger me. So the first thing that triggers me about this news is that they've called the project Minerva, because
Yeah, I was just
Minerva,
gonna bring
for
that up,
people who don't know, is like the Roman equivalent of Athena, who was the goddess of wisdom of the Greeks and the Romans, right? And the problem with this is the implication they're making is some like Minority Report level shit of like, the system will get so advanced it will know which is right or wrong. It will have wisdom, which is it definitely won't. So I'm already mad.
Like every algorithm, every algorithm-based thing we've had has been a fucking absolute nightmare and has made everything worse. As tech companies scale upwards and become monolithic organizations, and they try and look at ways that they can basically have less staff. My
favorite thing, though, Richard,
always gone wrong.
This is one thing I love, because computing always has to be based on logic. That's literally how machines work. That's why you always get these problems that people don't realize actually show how fucked people's current political philosophy is. Because what happens is when you try and program an algorithm with all of your paradoxes and illogical and inconsistent thinking, like, for example, on the one hand, you want to ban anyone who says the N-word, but then technically, if the person was themselves black, you would let them get away with it. A computer system can't handle that. It can't understand So what happens inevitably is either it will be completely toothless and do nothing, or as you just said earlier, it'll basically do the equivalent of what happened to that guy who was getting anti-Semitic remarks. It will just ban people who are the wrong people. And what's funny is, in explaining why it banned the wrong person, you will show the inconsistency in that logic, because the whole point is, as we all know now, there is no line. You can't perfectly define a set of rules. Like, that's been tried and failed many times online at this point in time.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, so I think an example of this is like the contextual problem is that, for example, when we saw what happened with Vox and the pushback against Steven Crowder, which by the way, like as I said, it wasn't as black and white as Steven Crowder did nothing wrong and didn't deserve any criticism, and it was some guy getting upset about it. There was a lot. There was a lot going on there where it was like, actually, you can point to rules that Steven Crowder definitely broke, right? So it wasn't as cut and dry as like the tribal factions that it got settled into, which was like, oh, but we need to cancel Crowder, it's hate speech, or SJWs are ruining everything again. Like those 2 points were really stupid. But what happened in the aftermath of that? The channels that were most effective as they tried to push back and combat hate speech online were history channels. There was multiple high-profile history channels that like had the history of World War II and footage. They had like Hitler's speeches, for example. They all got banned.
Makes sense, because obviously it would just
the algorithm exactly. What could be more hateful rhetoric than Hitler making a speech? So those videos gone. And how it works with YouTube, by the way, is when a video is deleted by YouTube, unless YouTube agree that there has been some error in the algorithm and they agree to restore it, you never get that back. And it comes out of nowhere. You don't get told in advance, you have 24 hours to archive this video because we're going to delete it. It's gone. It's gone forever. And so there were history channels that basically lost documentary footage, essentially, that's used in schools to educate people about what happened around World War II. And understand as well, the saying you hear about, whenever they bring up the horrors of World War II and just any sort of atrocity in general, is they always say, those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it, right? Like, that's the recurring phrase you'll hear. Well, great. Let's all let algorithms delete everything then. Let's have no historical record of the terrible things that happened in the past and the rise of fascism and things like that. Let's just delete it all because we're going to let algorithms fucking dictate what you can and can't see online. So yeah, I'm always hugely skeptical whenever a company comes out and says, "Yeah, we've got this great new algorithm and it's going to be brilliant, and it's going to fix everything," because it never has. And keep in mind, by the way, when you look at like what Riot Games did to try and stop toxicity, which, by the way, history needs to remember that this was created by a man who himself would, by any metric, be considered incredibly toxic and had deep personal problems going back to being bullied at school. That was why it was a passion project of his. And they put out like creepy fucking surveys. You know, they were going deep. Have you ever played a League of Legends game you enjoyed where people didn't tell you to fucking neck yourself or whatever? No, of course not. It didn't fix the problem at all. If anything, it created a lens through which people got more resentful and more hateful, or people would just have multiple accounts now, and when one was banned, you would go and play on the other.
I would even say probably the most misunderstood damage that approach that the Riot Games did was it trained people who want to grief exactly the line to run up against, to be able to grief, and to make you even angrier than if they'd have just said something in text, but not themselves get noticeably banned, which is one area, by the way, I'm concerned about this Minerva thing, for example. Because another classic thing that Riot did, which I think was exactly the wrong approach, is they made the entire obsession about what you typed. It was all about the words you said. Well, anyone who's played an online game knows that the choices that your teammate do in the game is way more important than whatever they type. They can type anything they want. I always say this, even like when I play CS, I think I've mentioned this before. If someone starts talking shit, this is literally what I do. I mute them on comms and I pretend that they didn't talk shit. I just play normally still. Because my logic goes like this. As long as you can say anything you want. You can say you're going to throw the game and that you've muted me and you're going to grief me. Say anything you want. But as long as you don't actually do it, I'm fine with that. Like, I'll just let you rage away, all we're here to do is play the game. So my problem is like the Riot approach and this approach potentially, if it's just about scanning words and removing toxic language, I always give this example. You're basically just doing what happens in most professional sports, which is the retaliator is the one that you punish. The guy who does it first does it sneaky behind the ref's back. He punches you. And then the person who punches him back, the linesman sees it and goes, "Oh, you're out the game." That system is shit because, as I've just alluded to, in that scenario, both people are fucking with each other. So I can already see, like, I know it hasn't been implemented yet, but I can already see, like,
well, they've already got a month's worth of data for it. And they're saying that there was a 20% reduction in toxic messages. And
amazingly, the systems had a lot of success because after it banned everyone from Israel, there was no more anti-Semitic remarks made. So it's perfect, actually. It's amazing system.
Yeah, imagine the logic of that, right? Because if you follow it, that would
that would be the solution. Yeah, computer solution.
It's
machine learning.
Just ridiculous how busted
it's like if Chad used machine learning to try and fix this problem in there. He goes, I'm having a lot of problem with Reddit. It goes, I have deleted your Reddit account, Chad, and now removed all personal items from the internet. You are no longer on the internet. No more problems. He goes, thanks. I'll just
perfect. So how this system's going to work is basically it's going to be scanning all the data in terms of games or whatever, and then after the game happens, an automated system issues punishments. Repeat offenders get punishments that get harsher every time, especially if you are punished for the same thing and it occurs in a short period of time. So in other words, if you don't learn, the punishments will get worse until you do learn. Apparently, it's
literally beatings will persist until
morale improves. After months of training, it says here, after it's had months of training in a bid to minimize false positives, they've now unleashed it, and it's now going to be just something fully automated. Also, as well, it comes in to try and minimize the impact Smurfs have. So you now have to register a phone. I mean, that's becoming something that's increasingly normalized. Like if you play ranked in Dota, you got to have a phone number attached to it. People can still get around that, obviously. But yeah, I don't know how. I don't play FACEIT, so I don't really have a barometer of how bad it is. Last time I played it, somebody recognized who I was and followed me around, team flashing me for the entire game. So I was just like, "Fuck this! This is just a waste of time." Playing CS is a waste of time. But maybe they did have to try and address something. A Google. Anything that's harvesting your data in association with a big tech company these days makes me fucking super terrified. I really don't know. I really don't like it. It just gets abused like every fucking time without fail. You always get told it's safe. You always get told no one's storing any records anywhere, and then a data breach occurs, and it's like, just for example, I'm obviously not supporting the behavior of people that type the N-word and are abusive in chat and say like outrageous things or throw anti-Semitic abuse at someone. And there really isn't an excuse for that kind of antisocial behavior, right? But equally as well, if a 15-year-old kid did it while playing on Face It, right? And then grew up to be an educated and enlightened adult and was actually quite ashamed of the things that they'd done in the past, including having a bad temper. What if there was a data breach because indeed, actually, this was being stored somewhere and probably almost certainly is?
I would guess it is.
Yeah, and then the 21-year-old years later has it leaked into the public domain, all of his chat logs from his games, and there you are being vile as a kid and saying unbelievable things. It's the adult that'll be punished for it, and there will be no grounds for refutation. There will be no way to recant what you've said, what you've done. There'll be no context that's going to allow it. You could lose your job. So these things do make me very nervous, because while in general, I'm all right with if you say something in public, you're held publicly accountable for the thing you said. I think that's a fine rule. We all know, actually, that generally what happens is when you start going into the unbelievable depths of cancel culture, it was like when those journalists over at fucking Compete, because their website was fucking failing, they went through Jacob Wolf's tweets, a business rival, essentially, and then ran a story saying, well, when he was 13, he said a bad word. It's like, fucking hell. Really? Really? That's what we're going to do? To try and get him fired. That was also, by the way,
for people who don't know, the punchline to that story was that when Richard wrote a story in counter doing this, there's a really funny part where, again, just by conspicuous nature, this guy gave the game away, which is Richard looked into the person who himself had written this article, right? And when he looked into that person and other people who wrote for the same website, I think the author himself deleted like 10,000 tweets or something and declined to comment on why he might have deleted those tweets right before he wrote an article that was a hit piece about someone who should have deleted tweets, basically. Like, it was one of those ridiculous ones where it even turned out they'd done it themselves, clearly.
I mean, I'll add, obviously all of this could just be massive paranoia, and maybe the system works and it's totally safe and no data's being stored anywhere, and Google are trustworthy, and it makes playing in Face It better. Who knows, right? Like, maybe that's all true. I need to look more into it. I need to get some feedback from some people who play Face It. If you guys are playing Face It and you were playing before Minerva got implemented, you want to reach out and tell me what it's like, I'll be down to listen to that and maybe do a segment on it later on the podcast. So do let me know. But for me, again, I'm always like very, very nervous about anything automated, algorithmic, especially when it comes to kind of data storage, issuing punishments, penalties. And it kind of also feels as well that this is like out of left field. Like I'd never heard enough people complaining about Face It. Like this was like something that they needed to do, but
yeah, that's actually a weird angle, because I have to say, usually the vibe on Face It is that there's way less toxicity, if we're going to fucking use that term. It's just more that like people are just tryhards because they're just trying to get the points or whatever, aren't they? So I never even really found that to be that big an issue there.
Yeah, I mean, again, don't know enough about it, and I've only ever played, apart from that one incident that happened to me, I generally play in stacks when I play anyway, so who fucking knows. But we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. But yeah, a little bit initially nervous. Last story before we go into the patron questions. Your man Fishiest dude?
Zeus has left now. Is there any way this guy ever just leaves?
No. He's
never ends, does it? Right, come on then. What drama is he now involved in for no reason?
This might not really be his fault. So he found a post by a guy called Marcello, who apparently is an insider you know, one of those CIS insiders that only Fishiest Dude knows. And he put out an English tweet because, again, like, I just wish the kid would just like go and do something else and try to be relevant in rumors. Like it's over for you, like in that regard. Like it's just you've had too many misses. You've lied too many times about stuff like.
You told everyone during a major there would be some enormous news that never happened. Enough said.
It's like, dude, like you've got to fucking stop trying to get involved in this.
Notice,
like,
by the way, the same people who are like
attention.
DK and Richard are always wrong. They're not in the fucking threads with the Fishiest guy telling him it's all wrong. Almost makes you feel like you're in some sort of a psyop or something, doesn't it?
I know. But anyway, so it didn't originate from him, but he did translate it into English and put it out on his own Twitter feed. So apparently a dude called Marcello, again, I can't vouch for this guy, I don't know who the fuck he is. And let me just also tell you, if you're like one of these CIS insiders who by virtue, you know, or an insider in any region, and what that means is you know a few players, you have them on Steam, you watch who they're playing with, who they're associating with, you know the IPs of their practice servers, and then you just constantly put stuff on your Facebook and your Twitter just for clout. Like, you're not a journalist.
If people
you're not doing
knew
any
how
form
many
of investigation.
of the fucking clown people who just reveal stuff on Twitter, as Richard just said, are just refreshing a server, and then they see FaZe go in there, and then they see Coldzera in the server with FaZe and go, I wonder if FaZe is going to sign Coldzera. That's it. That's all they're doing. They don't have any inside source. They don't have any fucking, like, that's it. They're literally just like on the most low-hanging fruit attempt of trying to get some clout. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like clout seeking, and people are typing Don Hassey in the chat. Like, he doesn't do that, dude, anymore. If you go look at his Twitter feed, that's not what his Twitter feed is. But anyway, you know, the people that are doing this for like clout, it's like, fuck me, dude. Like, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a journalist? Is that what you want to be? Okay, well, maybe go and learn about the ethical tenets and the methodology and everything, and how you know, anything that just falls onto your lap that you think is going to blow up, you can't just tweet it out. You know, like, for example, I got sent a leak yesterday of all the fucking supposedly of all the Call of Duty logos for the new upcoming Call of Duty franchise league, and somebody sent it to me and said, have you seen these? They're fucking garbage. It looks like they were literally designed in the game. And because it's one source, and you know, I can't vouch for the efficacy of this source, I'm not gonna fucking put that out there. It's probably true. There's more leaks over in Activision Blizzard right now than fuck knows what, but the reality is, like, I'm not gonna fucking put my name to that. Other people, of course, wasted no time going, don't know if this is real or not, guys, but bloody hell, have you seen these? And let's pretend that they are real. Like, nah, I can't do that, man. I got a rep to fucking protect. I got too much fucking respect for my craft and myself. But yeah, these people, it's like, what do you want to be? Like yeah, I never understood it. But anyway, so this guy Marcello apparently tweeted out saying that Virtus Pro is going to get rid of all of its Polish players, and it's going to get the Kazakhstanis from a Vanguard and basically just take the team. And that's what the rumor is. And also that the price for this is going to be $1 million. Anyway, Marcello, immediately after Fishiest Dude tweeted it out, said, update, and this was in a reply to him, update, the Vanguard team owner has denied rumors about his players moving to Virtus Pro. So now Fishiest Dude's like kind of sat there like, oh god, none of it's happening again. And then somebody else replied saying, another guy who's like obviously a big like a Vanguard fan, has like a Vanguard fan account, saying this seems like nonsense. The CEO has said that he cherishes the players and definitely doesn't want to sell them. Which, well, by the way, this doesn't really fucking mean anything, because we all know that people lie through their fucking teeth all the time. But basically, even the source of the rumor that has put this out there is sort of already trying to walk it back and go, yeah, bloody hell, they're denying it. Just want to put that out there.
Because here's what happened, I'll tell you. This is obviously what happened, right? The Marcello guy is an insider on a low level, right? He's someone in the CIS scene, he knows the odd person, and he thinks to himself, I know a few people on Twitter, I'll get a bit of clout, I'll tweet this rumor. Then, of course, Fishiest Dude basically hooks up this guy's like mixtape CD to a giant fucking like entire stadium, and it's blasting the entire world. Like, and the guy's like, actually, you know what? Not so sure about that. Actually, you know what? Maybe I didn't quite hear that. And then Fish is like, what do you mean? I'm just about to play the second track. He's like, no, nah, actually, I'm just gonna cut. It's like, yeah, exactly. You've blown it up too much.
Yeah. I mean,
he's had a delete, hasn't he? He's had a little delete.
Yeah, I don't know. But again, I've not heard anything about it. But you know, if VP were to pick up a Vanguard, it wouldn't be the worst if it was true. I mean, you know.
The only thing is, I will say this: like, I can't know the circumstances. Like, that guy's numbers a pretty weird one, but I will just say this: if they do sign a Vanguard, nah, that's the problem. Is like you'll be overpaying. That's the exact moment when you'd overpay the most for them, isn't it? Because like obviously their stock is huge. They have a great HLTV player saying all that shit because you can't argue against it. But the problem is, it's not likely to maintain, is it? So like, I feel like it would be a waste of money.
Yeah,
something the team had signed, put that way.
I do like as well. I like everybody in the Reddit thread is apart from one dude. Everyone's like, "Oh, we'll just totally take this at face value." It's like the Team Liquid.
That's
thing
why I
just
told
happened.
you. It's so suspicious that people like DK who are proven always have the critics. Right? That implies, like, you know, there's a saying that goes like, you know, 1 time's coincidence, 2 times suspicious, 3 times is enemy behavior. Like, that's how I feel about some of these things. Like, once like a pattern emerges, it's like these things don't just accidentally happen. Like, this is one of the things that people don't realize. So I've mentioned this in the past, but it was literally proven in the last American election cycle that certain candidates and parties paid people to go onto services like Reddit and Twitter and start conversations, and steer conversations, and try and get people like banned and stuff, all sorts of shit, right? What people don't stop and think about is this. Since we know in esports, like, influence does come from Reddit and Twitter and HLTV, does everyone really think that there are no people out there trying to navigate conversations in this way, or steer them, or manage perceptions, all those fucking Orwellian terms you hear the government say all the time? There must be. Sadly, we don't know who they are, so I don't want to go too deep on this. Like, I'm not going to pick out like 3 trolls that I think are the most likely Russian agents or something, but there's basically some of that shit almost must be going on. Because think about that, like I see too many examples like this where someone who has a terrible record doesn't get called out at all, and then someone who has like the perfect record has like all the trolls who are just like, I think he's always wrong about this. Like, that, it's like the pattern of behavior is well suspicious. Well suspicious.
Right, let's get the questions out of the way and wrap up this fucking slow news week episode. Rekovic on Steam said, why do these so-called analysts insist on stealing ideas from the good same people of Reddit? It is ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, how dare people who were paid to think intelligently about the game occasionally align with Redditors? That can't be right.
This reminds me, right? There's a classic bit in an episode of Seinfeld where Kramer comes in, right, and he's got like the newspaper, and he goes, "Look at that! Look at that!" He goes like, "A new Ford Mondeo for only 28% with refinancing." He goes, "That was my idea." And the joke obviously is like, even if it is like, he obviously had no connection to that, did he? It's not even his fucking service. He has no opinion on what they. So that's like a perfect example of what people are like in that sense, isn't it? Like, you took my idea. I had the idea that, like, they always pick the most blatant one as well. I had the idea that KNG should join MIBR. KNG, the last serviceable top good player who hasn't been in MIBR, I believe he should one day join ever. And then if he ever joins the team at any point in the next 20 years, I call
this
that.
aged
you
well.
didn't know, did you?
Yeah, this aged well. Look, yeah, it's ridiculous. Sunmade Raisins. If all the pros had to play in a real life version of CS:GO, what players would be the best and worst at their role? There's too much material here. Because
what was the premise again? If all of what?
Yeah, if you had to play a real life version of CS:GO, so I'm guessing like basically you are shooting people in real life.
That's already it's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, maybe not. Maybe not.
And which player would you like to shoot the most?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Like, fucking hell. All right, some mid raisins. I'm trying to think because there's definitely some players that have served in the military. I mean, that
here's the thing. You know what? I'll give you an example. The sort of person who I actually think would be good in the real life military, people think this is a joke, would be people like Edward. Because the thing I always said about people like Edward when they were good was they had that quality, which is fucking hard to get as a pro, actually, where it's like you can just weather anything. Like, you can have a fucking hard game, it's a 16-14 game, and you're losing the game, and you're down again. And they looked like they never bothered them. Like, they always just, like, they're just rocks. They can't be worn down. So I would just go ahead and guess in a real-life war scenario, I want someone like that on my side. A guy who just isn't phased by it all. He just keeps going, you know. Doesn't have to be the best soldier, but I think that's a pretty key quality to have.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, again, I think, you know, like people like fucking Freakazoid as well are good for that. Like, just a ridiculous sort of can-do attitude.
Sure.
Very good. You know, obviously big, strong guy. You can imagine.
Not so good if you haven't got
carrying-
that much HGH to go around, right? If you've got really limited supplies, you know.
Yeah, true. But you know, he's somebody that, you know, and I can picture Sean Gers not so much as like one of those low-level officers like drill sergeant dude, but he high up, you know, behind the desk, but he does occasionally go out and sit in a tent, moving things around the map, you know. But it's really hard. Like I say, I mean, there's definitely lots of Finnish guys that have done national service that would probably fucking surprise you. You know, because the Finnish, it's not like super intensive like fucking special forces training, but it's still, it's pretty. Anybody that's done the Finnish national service will tell you they don't fuck around. I used to know a lot of lads that used to have to go and do the Finnish national service back in the day. And they were you know, little chubby doughy motherfuckers, but by the time they came out of the 2 years or whatever they're fucking done, they were pretty fucking, you know, they were carved out of wood. So definitely get some Finns on your side would be my advice. That seems to be a good rule to live by. But that's a very deep question and one that veers towards some awkward territory.
Obviously, fucking Alexei B will just get court-martialed straight out the Finnish army immediately, wouldn't
Yeah,
he?
of course. Yeah, exactly. for not shooting dissenters. Right, but Pounder 420. Has there ever been an esports org that was a greater display of incompetence and mismanagement than Echo Fox? Almost certainly, because what you have to remember.
There'll be ones that didn't even get as big, of course.
Yeah, that's the thing, because there's esports organizations out there like Denial, you know, that fucking didn't even have the investment or the money. And like,
I would say you have to do this. Like, the only way you can, like, because here's the thing, his premise has like a basis, but you have to explain it like this. Dollar for dollar, it might be one of the worst esports orgs ever run. Like, if you look at how much scope it had and how much potential, and even some of the players at certain times they did have signed, they didn't get very much out of it. I would agree with that. And if you just look at where the valuation ended up and where it's come to now, yeah, it's had a pretty crazy story.
Yeah, and you know, then you get into the UK stuff. Me and Sam still haven't done this video about choke gaming, which is still one of the most hilarious things ever. I've got to do it. Like because we had SEO on for the No Majors Club. We got to just do this video, Sam, because this was literally where they went, yeah, we've got a team house for you, and it was like a 2-bedroom fucking flat. Like, it was like a 2-bedroom flat in some shithole part of Britain with like terrible internet, and you just like, this can't be fucking real. And then the guy goes to an event and he gets in a fucking fist fight. So the whole thing's just a fucking nightmare. No one gets paid. We've been threatening to do that video for ages. Like, we just got to do it because it's so funny. But there's a special kind of incompetence with UK organizations like, you know, Kaz Esports and stuff like this. But yeah, in terms of like, yeah, wasted potential, Echo Fox definitely be right up there for sure, because that had brand power, brand strength.
That could have been the biggest
yeah.
brand in esports if he'd played it right.
Yeah, totally. And unfortunately, there was just lots of stuff going on behind the scenes that were hampering that. And I think as well, you know, listen, a lot of people think that I give Rick a pass on this. You know, he probably needed. And I've said this to him.
Because that was depth, wasn't he? To know he's doing in the esports business.
Well, yeah, he needed to appoint esports savvy managers a lot quicker than what he did. You know, if they ever had any.
I'll also say as well, because another problem I've noticed myself. Listen, one of my friends, Monte Cristo himself, owned a team and had some problems with how the team was run. I'll tell you a problem a lot of people in esports run into, which is, like, so you want them to delegate. You want them to say, I don't know anything about this business. I haven't run a business like this before. I've run it before. The problem is, where is their skill to even know who to delegate to? That's the number one problem I noticed they run into. So what tends to happen, and I'll speak from personal experience here, is with my mate Monte Cristo, his biggest problem was he assessed his business partner based on things of like, how did his personal conversations go? Did he like this person? Did he trust them? Right, unfortunately, those aren't necessarily the best metrics to pick someone to run your business. Like, you'd probably, in an ideal world, want like past business experience, the guy's done the job, you know. Unfortunately, like, that's part of the problem is it's well and good to tell them, right, delegate to someone to run your business, but then who does that job in esports? There's not many people at the moment have the qualifications. So it's easy, as Rick did, to pick the wrong person or the wrong people and then have them fuck it up a bunch of times. Easy.
Yeah, and like I say, you know, like the bringing in Jace Hall and stuff, you know, like external people, and then having them like basically try and run an esports org was like, you know, you can't do it. This is the one thing that pisses me off about anybody that's coming into the space. If you don't respect the endemic expertise, you do deserve to fail.
And you almost certainly will.
Yeah, and you almost certainly will, because you cannot be prepared for what esports is like as a business, where entire life cycles of games can be here today and gone tomorrow. You need to have a plan in place to act, to take advantage of like fads and trends, but also with the contextual understanding that's probably what they are. So don't overinvest. Make sure you get yours. You have to know which esports are going to get you a good return. You have to know which players have history that's going to potentially damage some of the sponsorship arrangements. Like, again, I love the guy. I have him on fucking NMC all the time. Yeah, I do consider him a friend. But I'll never give him a pass for some of the stuff he's done. But it was like when they appointed Moore as like a GM, it's like guys, like Rick Fox is meant to be all about like, you know, integrity and let's do things the right way, and it's like Moore's about making money.
Through, did they?
Yeah, and equally as well, like Moore's never talked about it on stream. It does sound like he got a fucking he got a pretty raw deal. Actually, I don't think they treated him particularly well while he was doing that. And it did have a negative impact on some of the stuff. Like, for example, when we had Echo Fox on, this is when we were still getting your paperwork in E-League, we were like, well, we can't have more sat there talking about Echo Fox because you know what I mean? So he loses a week of work for something that I don't even think he ever got paid for. I don't even think he ever made any money off that. So it was like, I don't even know what the fuck was going on there. So like just weird things like that somebody endemic to the space would have been able to negotiate you through. So yeah, it's a very good shout. Nemesis asks, do you think female pros will reach tier 1 CS to compete in a reasonable time frame? Is the all-female rosters and tournaments holding them back, or is there prejudice somewhere preventing development? Surely after 20 years of CS, we should have seen a few individuals. So, I mean, first of all, like, this topic's been done to death, so no disrespect to your question, but Duncan's done many videos on it, interviewed many people. I've covered the topic. My opinions evolved over time on this issue, where I think you have to have all-female tournaments because there is a very clear barrier to entry, and you've got to have spaces where women can feel comfortable playing and doing things. But equally as well, the aspiration should always be that, yes, we do indeed have this scene where everybody can all get mixed up, and I think we're working towards it. And I think we're seeing players, you know, be brought in. In fact, just the other day, you know, Greyhound played in a tournament, and they used a stand-in for Dick Stacey, a player called White Girl Wasted, I think it was. And, you know, you wouldn't have known any difference. She was at the bottom of the scoreboard, but they still won. That's pretty much what they do with Dick Stacey anyway. If anything, they should probably look at that data and think, well, all the fucking publicity we're going to get if we have somebody come in, compared to all the negative publicity we get because Dick Stacey's a fucking child, trying to slip drawings of knobs into a video game. They should probably, you know, they should probably think about making it a permanent move, honestly. So look, these things are definitely out there and they're definitely happening. And I've said it. I think you're going to see top women players in mixed teams that might not be at the very pinnacle of the scene, but are going to be relatively competitive. And I think you're going to see that in the next year or two, frankly. I don't think this is some ancient thing. And there's too many factors to say, oh, well, you know, there's too many factors to say, oh, well, it hasn't happened in 20 years, so that proves that it's not going to happen, because, like, there's too many fucking mitigating circumstances and factors for that. So go watch some of Duncan's videos about it. Go watch my interview with Miss Harvey on the Deserto channel. There's lots of good stuff out there that's very interesting and kind of will help you, I think, get to the position that me and Duncan are both at now. Mike Feed Me asks, how in fuck have Heroic done Na'Vi 2-0, and what are your predictions for how Star Series will play out? So obviously we'll talk about Star Series in more detail, but since you are a patron and you are asking a question about what our predictions are, so let's just take a look at the teams that are kind of left in it, right? So we've got what? Vitality.
Yep.
Renegades is still in it.
Yep.
Fnatic, they're still in it, but they're in the
and
lower
beyond
brackets.
Fnatic, that's all Group A, yeah.
Right. And then the other teams are NIP, G2, Furia, and Evil Geniuses. I think the first thing just to say is, like, I think NIP have, like, really fucking overperformed.
Sure.
And so I think it was the wrong way around in your question. You asked, well, how did Heroic do Na'Vi 2-0? Well, I can definitely answer that question because I saw the Na'Vi games. Guardian is having a terrible time of it since he's gone to Na'Vi. In fact, the two notable series they've lost since he's joined the team, it's pretty much been on him solely, having like zero impact statistically. And there's no getting away from
Which
that.
is unfortunate because everyone else in the team's doing pretty well.
Yeah, and as I
Feels like.
predicted right here on this podcast, I said Flamey's the player that goes to the next level in the absence of Zeus. That's absolutely been bore out and has happened. You know, Simple's not playing God tier anymore. Like, in fact, actually, if you look at the stats for this tournament, I don't even think he's in the top 5 players. Which, you know, is to be expected. Nobody could have been God tier forever, but it's fine because Electronics there, he's doing it. Flamey's picking up the game. You know, this Boomich in-game leadership role, he's definitely producing more than Zeus, and everyone seems really happy with him as an in-game leader. Unfortunately, the difference maker in these series, which are very close series, we're talking 16-14, 16-13, at worst 16-10 maps. If your AWPer is absolutely missing in these games to the point where he's posting like 12 kills, that fucks you. It fucks you financially. It fucks you in terms of production. And yeah, Guardian for me hasn't been good enough since he got there. And honestly, I think if I was Na'Vi, I don't know if they sign him on a long-term contract or a 6-month or a 1-year thing. I think they need to have a strategy in place to get another CIS region AWPer, another top-tier AWPer, somebody. Because right now, to put it in context, right, I wouldn't say like Jame is blowing the fucking roof off with his performances, but statistically, he's actually one of the best AWPers in Europe. Just you know, there's a lot of mitigating circumstances around that. But just in terms of always having the AWP, always getting, you know, there's so many exit frags that he pads his stats with. But, you know, in terms, you know, he has to be a viable alternative that they need to look at. And him on Na'Vi would be good. You know, I kind of feel that, like, if you went out and got Oscar, as I've always said, Oscar's a basket case. But right now, he's definitely a better player than Guardian. There's just no doubt about that. Statistics will show you that. So there's got to be options out there. And Na'Vi, I think, at this stage, need to probably start accepting that the Great Guardian return isn't going to deliver. You know, it might be too early, it might be premature, but I think he's been missing in too many series now, and they're going out of tournaments because of it. Yes. So I think that's something about to bring up about Na'Vi. My predictions, though, really tough. Fnatic are in the lower bracket. I think NIP have definitely overproduced here, and it's all been predicated on Forest. Like, if you looked at what Forest did, he's like the second best player at this tournament after Ziwu with like a 1.62 HLTV.
There's no way that holds.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's just no way. I mean, it's insane that, again,
that would be historic if he ends anywhere close to that, bro.
Oh, dude, it proves what we all know about him. That, first of all the people who were saying you need to drop Forest and get right from NIP, Forest's washed up all this, you were idiots. He's old. He still remains the veteran that has aged the best, I would say, out of all of the greats in CSGO that had the 1.6 legacies. I think he's like the best veteran, you know, right now. Certainly after, you know, stuff like Neo, you know, it's just awful. It's not even a conversation. But yeah, I don't think NIP can go much further. I kind of feel they've really overproduced with this lineup. Vitality need to win. They need to go deep. They've got Renegades. That should be fodder. I think Evil Geniuses will beat Furia in the bottom.
Even though EG's in the losers bracket at the moment,
yeah,
like they've got a
they're
very
dangerous
still.
still.
The tournament. Yeah, because remember it's a double elim actual playoff bracket as well, so they've got a lot of chances to come through.
I mean, special shout out has to go to the G2 lineup.
Yes,
clearly
they're the dark horse to win this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, I could probably. Yeah, I could probably see something like a G2 Fnatic final or a G2 Vitality final. And then,
to me, the obvious favourites, no matter what their position is Vitality and EG, just based on who's left. But then after that, yeah, G2's the team G2 and Fnatic are the ones who have potential to do like a big upset somehow and maybe win it out of nowhere.
Alice the Alchemist, with all the skills that you guys have gained in your lifetime, not just through esports, but in general through your experiences and training, is there a field that you have had to give up for esports that, in your opinion, would have been a better one in hindsight? I should have definitely gone and done law. I'll say that right now. I read a lot of legal
I actually
documents.
think, by the way, I even think it's one of those things where, because this is the real, I'll tell everyone, the real problem in life with trying to choose your field is right. Obviously, the simple cliched advice is pick something you love to do, right? Well, the problem with that is it is just shit cliched advice because you can't know before you did it if you love it. I even tell people this. A reason why you can't just tell someone like find your passion and follow it is because it won't really be your passion when you begin it. Like I even think one element of doing something is it doesn't get super fun until you get really good at doing it. Because then obviously the whole like vista opens up, doesn't it? What's then possible within that field is incredible. So in the same way as you're going to have to put in a few years learning a guitar, an instrument before you even know if you have any aptitude for music. The real problem is you need to pick a field, which you can't know it yet, but 3 years from now, you're going to be loving whatever you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So the funny thing is, when you initially said that you wanted to be a lawyer, my initial thought was like, that sounds shit, because to me that sounds boring. But actually, I can sort of see why you would enjoy that, though. Like, there's lots and lots of room to establish different precedents and argue a case that hasn't yet been done. Research gives you a massive edge on people. Like, there's all established rules. People can't just make up some nonsense and go, actually, you lose to this. Like, no, there's actually a lot of things I could see you'd appreciate about that field.
No, well, the thing was like when I was like at uni, you know, like I was a fucking idiot because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Because originally, like I bought in, you know, I had so many people like hammering it into my life that I was like human shit, you know, like my own family, you know, my teachers.
Preparing for Reddit.
Yeah. I mean, like, this is what I mean. It's like this stuff's like fucking whatever, you know.
No,
like,
by the way, I definitely wonder myself about some of these Americans when I hear them talk about the modern world. It's like until you've actually just had teachers just tell you to your face, one-on-one with no one else there, like you will never succeed, you will fail in everything in life, and I basically hate you. Like, you don't know what life's like, boys. You haven't played life on hard mode in any way.
No, but this is what I mean. I mean, I had that as well. So the school I went to, because they knew my dad was like in prison. So they were like,
I bet they were cunty as a result, right?
Yeah, of course, because it was like, you know,
the assumption is you're going to follow in their footsteps, right?
Yeah, I didn't belong. I was like, you know, I was raised by a single parent mother. You know, dad's banged up, so the kid's obviously going to be a bad seed, right? So teachers used to fucking ride me, and then when they saw I was like smart, but I just didn't really give a fuck. That was even worse. It was even worse than being.
Oh, they hate that the most.
Yeah. So I had a ton of teachers that give me a hard time. Like even when I did my A levels, the head of the fucking college literally told me I got straight A's, right? Straight fucking A's, no revision, straight A's. Like, did it in my fucking sleep. And she basically predicted me in my, because they do this system where they say what they think you're going to achieve, and that's what they send out to university so you can get university placement. So she said my predicted grades were all D's and E's. And I said, like, on what basis when I've just got fucking straight A's? And she's like, your type of scum always fails. She literally said this. Literally, this is no joke. She said that this is absolutely true. She fucking literally said to my face, there were too many, you know, like a 17-year-old kid. There are too many fail safes in place to ever allow you to succeed. So that was like those straight A's were a fucking aberration. So that limited what universities I could go to. And I started to think like, oh wait, yeah, the system is fucking rigged against people like me. It's just like what you read about. Yep. The system's rigged. So I wanted to go in the military. I had a lot of friends joining the military because I was from a poor neighborhood, and that's what I did. I trained up, and then I failed a medical, and basically I was like, so I couldn't go in the Marines. But then basically I was told like, oh, but you passed the criteria to join the infantry. I could have gone into the Green Howards or whatever it was, which I had uncles in there, so it would have been like a legacy thing. And they basically said like, you know, if you do, you get posted in Ireland once you've done basic training. And of course, everyone was getting blown up with fucking car bombs and stuff. You're not even shooting motherfuckers. You're just out on a street and you just get blown up by a nail bomb. And I was like, you know what? I don't really fancy that. So I had to go to some garbage fucking university. And then I thought, well, you know, what I'll do is I'll study philosophy. I don't even know why. I thought that was going to fucking make everything good. So I threw all my energy and effort in my best years into absolute trash. And then I switched and did journalism. I knew I wanted to, the reason I didn't pick law then was because it was like 7 years of school.
Yeah,
I was already
a very, very hard thing to study as well.
Yeah. I was already coming unstitched by that point, you know, like I like by 18 I'd already been in fucking rehab. So I was like, you know, I don't know if I can handle 7 years. I'll probably blow my motherfucking brains out. So I just did a journalism degree and went on to do journalism, but not even the kind of journalism I ever wanted to do. frankly. Because
You'll appreciate this, by the way, because I've just realized as I was thinking about what my answer would be, that there's actually like a punchline to this story, which is quite depressing in a way, because the field, I've often told this story, the only thing aside from, originally it was going to be computer programmer, because I thought that was a way to express creativity or whatever. Didn't know I'd be a writer, obviously, but the only thing I ever wanted to do in life, aside from programmer, was to be a comic book writer, to be an actual guy who wrote the scripts, right? It was something I admired the people who were the best at that field.
Alan Moore and
thought I had good taste, and hoped you could develop it over time. And the real problem is this. I always kept that in the back of my mind when esports was going for the first, say, 10 years. Because what I thought to myself was, maybe one day I'll pick this up again. Maybe it'll be something I'll do part-time and see if I have a go at it. The irony is this, right? In theory, esports getting big should make it more likely I could one day actually do a comic book, right, Rich? Right? What if esports ever got big and they did a crossover? The reason I say it ironic is because it's actually now less likely I will ever be able to write for any major comic book creation, despite the fact never having even expressed any opinions about their field, but just based on politics. Yes, politics yet again, fucking up stuff that has nothing to do with politics, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. I think what you have to do is, like, to a certain degree, I think some players have the right idea. Like, for me, I'm still thinking about, like, what I'm going to do next. Like, I don't consider esports the destination, you know. I don't consider it the final destination. I just can't leave because it's sort of too comfortable and lucrative, and the state.
That's quite an interesting time period at the moment.
Yeah,
you can have a lot of influence, actually.
And obviously, I've mind fucked myself into thinking that, like, if I'm not around, the whole thing will implode, and of course it won't. Everyone will just make more money. That's all that'll really happen. So it's like, you know,
no, but to some degree, I know what you mean. Like, there's times where, but like, people will think I'm exaggerating when I say this, but there's actually times when I see stuff that I just think, well, no one else is going to fucking tweet the actual opinion I have on this topic, so it's better be me, hadn't it? Like, there's just times where it's like it's not like I want to jump in at every beef, but I just do get annoyed by certain opinions never being represented.
Detlef Insomniac asks, who's your favorite comic book character?
All right. Okay.
This is a real tough one because there's so fucking many great ones, and I always like want to fucking, because obviously everybody likes the classics, that's why they're classics. So you always want to represent somebody that, like, maybe people don't like so much, like fucking Booster Gold or something, right? Like, because his story's fucking straight fucking fire, and there was some
just rich. Right? Yeah, it's not
yeah, no, but that's the whole thing. Like, just a fucking time traveler who abuses time travel and then gets guilty.
Oh, it's the most petty reason as well.
Yeah. Like, it's just fucking sick. It's just a great comic. But
I like that concept.
Yeah, hands down for me. If you're talking like mainstream stuff, it's probably like Punisher blew my mind when I was a kid. I got hold of the Punisher comics in like '88, I want to say, when they first got transferred over to UK, and they, you know, that crossover with Daredevil, where Daredevil was fucking trying to get the fucking drug dealers that were selling the bad fucking crack and the angel dust to the kids. Punisher just wanted to straight kill them motherfuckers, like, you know, and those two having a battle. That was sick. What was that called? Was that like Blind Justice or something, that crossover? I can't remember. But anyway, so if you want to go like Marvel mainstream shit, definitely the Punisher. It was just like, there was just nothing like that. There was just nothing like a guy who's so fucking mentally damaged. He just wants to kill all the criminals. Like, it was always like, you know, every other comic you would pick up, they would always be like, no, but he could be saved. No, yes, Eric.
Basically, every other character's like fucking Professor X. Like, no, it's the wrong move. We can save him still. Like, no matter what's happened to him as well.
Like, imagine
I always used to think, by the way, that aspect did beg a belief. The idea that the Professor X character is just constantly berating his friend, whose family literally were killed by the Nazis, and going like, "Why are you going so mad about? Why are you mouthing about all this? Like, just fucking calm down." Like, he has got the best reason ever to not calm down.
Yeah, but like,
give me a break.
The Punisher was like mind blowing. Like when I was like, you know, fucking 6 or whatever. Like there's a scene in it where he gets put in prison. It's where he fights Jigsaw for the first time, and it just shows you how he makes a silencer out of fucking a glass bottle, and it like literally just tells you how to murder someone real discreet. I'm like, this is fucking insane. What's this? So that, if you're mainstream, and then Spider Jerusalem from Transmetropolitan. If
you're a journalist, it's just the ultimate character, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because it was just like, basically it was like Hunter S. Thompson cranked up to fucking 1,000 and then just dropped in the future. So I mean, like the sad thing is, I think everyone wants to be Hunter S. Thompson. If you go too far, you just end up like Spider Jerusalem, just an absolute fucking parody. So one of those two, I think.
Yeah, I'll do a similar take because, like, I agree with you. There's basically like a mainstream and a less mainstream version. So the mainstream version, very, very famous one, just Superman, just being always one that I always fucked with. Always thought like the premise was an interesting one. Not least because, by the way, I mean, I know people, every fucking first year like uni student thinks it's some sort of genius take to imply maybe Superman has some connection to the mythos of Jesus. That's actually the most level one fucking take on the character ever, and is also clearly one of the reasons why it is a character that has like emphasis behind it and interest.
Well,
why it's a compelling character.
The original writers were like it was Moses, right? I mean, it was biblical, like very deliberately.
Yes.
So it was
The premise is just. I mean, they were Jewish, like
exactly.
Copied
So,
the story,
obviously
clearly.
Moses freed the fucking Israelites.
Exactly,
So.
it's a good, clever premise, and I'll say it as a less mainstream one. Maybe John Constantine. I think that's a pretty classic character because there's one where like he's just a brilliant character. Like it's actually his character flaws and his strengths that are most interesting. It's actually one of the ones where it's less about the plot, it's more about the person. So if you just ever read that story, I mean, everyone might know it now because they made a TV show of it. It's basically Hellblazer. That's just a brilliant character. If you like that character, you can read like 1 million comics of him. He just stands up.
Yeah, it does. Fucking good comic. Good shout. Right, let's wrap it up then. So it's been another episode of By the Numbers. Thanks for joining us this week. Of course, shout out our $100 patrons, Jerky's Minion, Detlef Insomniac, Rikovic on Steam, Alice the Alchemist, and Justin Zapansky. And our $50 patrons, Benakagi Assassin, But Pounder 420, Carve, Colin Penny, Daniel Sellers, Madsen, Marcus Kyumpa, Mike Feed Nemesis, Sard Sawar, Some Made Raisins, TC Owens, Tobias Bernasconi, and Watchdog. Remember, chip in $50 or more for the podcast. You get to ask a question like that one, can be about anything, and you can shape the show. So thanks a lot for tuning in. Shout out to everybody, and we're going to wrap it up there, and I'll hopefully see you next week. Until then, take care of yourselves.